Hello, 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 everyone. Good night. This is Expand Understanding Podcast number 11. 12. This is number 12. That's what we're on today. And we are going to have a very special guest on today. Lilac will be with us, Lilac Perspective, shortly, and joining us for some more conversation. How's everyone doing in the chat tonight? Since this is a live show. Let's see, read through comments. Everyone's talking to each other. Let's see. Hello, sweet Oriental music. Dreaming of cherry blossom and beautiful landscapes those times. Dude, I've been sitting here like this for like the last 10 minutes. It's been beautiful. This is the music and just shutting my eyes and tuning in. That has been really deeply intense, or not intense, like deeply focused based on Zach's like symbol sets that he's introduced to me now and he likes to use. That's probably a good way to gauge it, really. I have to learn those levels better. Like, I think it was at this one. Or whatever, but interesting. The different there's a lot of different imageries and things I was going through different like the music was just carrying energy through, which it does beautifully, and different musics for different things at different time points in your life and how we resonate with what we're hearing and moving through that dynamic. Let's see. Bob Tacular, Joseph, what's up? So what's up, Aaron? Cool, man. Love to see you guys. This is really cool. We have this live interaction. Jen says, "Hey, hi guys. So nice to see all of you guys here. Giant hugs, everyone." Jen, you're the chat mom. Oh, in the best possible way. What a beautiful role. Like, that should never be an insult. It's weird. I guess it's like insulting that we make that an insult or something, you know? We all play those roles at different times, and it's cool. Let's see. Hi, Charlotte. I just saw you earlier today in meditation with Zach and April. And Charlotte, April, Zach, and Jen. That's right. Jen was the other one. And that was awesome. Sure, we'll probably talk about that when Zach comes back from whatever he's doing. Sleep versus you guys. I'll see how long I last tonight. Did you make it through the whole show? Yeah, because we were chatting up till the end, right? What was the last one? It was like 5 hours. So yeah, right on, man. That's cool. I'm excited to see where the conversation goes. It's always organic and new. And oh, echo.
It's gone now. The echo is gone now.
Good evening, Zachary.
Hi.
How are you doing?
How is everyone? Pretty good. I am pretty good.
Were you listening?
Stuff out.
Were you listening?
Yeah, sort of.
Okay,
I was doing stuff around my house and stuff.
The whole 10 minutes before with that music is great. Please, if you think about it, send me the link, because that was great, and that like took me places, a lot of places. Nice. It was cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I will send you the link. I will actually just put the link in chat right now in case other people want to listen to this sometime.
Imagine they do.
It's pretty good.
And Jen is now the official positive connotation chat mom.
Hi, Charlotte. Hi, Wilma. Hi, Bob. Hi, Jen. Hi, Jasmine. Hi, Willow. Hi, Joe. Hi, Lilac. You should join. Let's talk. What are we waiting for? Why are you in chat? You're in the wrong chat. You're supposed to be in here.
It's on you,
Charlotte. If I didn't already say something before, Kala. Hi, everyone. Mm-hmm. Look at it. She was on point, dude. She was like, I said that. Right, she was in here in like seconds.
All right. Hi, Lilac. You win so far. You win so far for the quickest. Send a link. Click on it in the chat. Good for you.
I was testing it.
Go ahead.
I'm listening like a double echo, Zach. You know why that is?
Do you have YouTube open still?
Oh, right.
I bet it's that.
I was just really happy it wasn't on our end.
No, yeah, that's awesome.
It's all better now.
Yeah, I think I jumped on quick. I don't know if you guys usually do an intro, but
Oh
yeah, you can always you can always come backstage from the beginning. You can always come in and click the link. You'll be backstage, and then we'll click to bring you on at the right time. So really, you can use the link anytime once we send it to you.
Okay, perfect. So I'll join you afterwards.
No, you're good now.
No,
we're good.
Like in the future, if you're going to come
This
on,
is
then
the
you just
intro
need to get
to
the
our
mic.
stream. This is Expanded Understanding. Aaron sort of kind of already did one.
Yeah, I did.
If you like what you see here, like, subscribe, follow us at other social media things down there. This is Carolina, otherwise known as Ad Lilac Perspective. She's a very smart girl, an engineer, and fun person. Hello to everyone in the chat. Hello to everyone who's watching replays. We do lots of community stuff here, including meditations and exploring consciousness throughout all kinds of different various modalities, and do a lot of community projects and work together on collaboration, and generally just try to create a safe space for everybody who explores weird things to come and feel like their voice is heard. There's nothing that we don't accept on this channel. We like to explore everything. So please share your thoughts in the comments or in live chat.
Yeah,
And
the
any
weirder
questions
the
that you
questions, the
have.
better.
The weirder the better. We love
Yep.
to explore everything. And if anybody watching this ever wants to come on this show or wants to come on a show tonight, we can provide that for you. Just message me on Instagram. Again, in the description below, you can find my Instagram at Zach Mortimer. And if you message me on there, we could get you set up. And hi, Carolina. How are you tonight? It's good to have you back.
Hey, well, I'm very glad to join you guys, and I'm very happy to be back. So many things happening. I caught up with the Arcturian meditation from a week ago.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, from there, I've been trying to catch up with all of the episodes, which if anybody's watching, make sure to go back. They're phenomenal. I was watching some for even like the second time, and at some points I was gathering even more depth after watching the Arcturian one, where I was like, wow, they're rich. I almost wanted to take notes and create like a shared drive for people to just kind of...
If anybody wants to take any kind of notes on the show and send them to us, we would really appreciate it, because I got a lot of work to do to cut up micro content. So if that's ever something that sounds good to you, feel free.
Hey, I'm going to drop it there, and if the seed blooms, I mean, we could always start like a drive, and we have like documents. I once thought of starting this, and you have like shared documents, and people can comment, and you write down ideas, and you chart it down, and you know, like all of the charts that you have. I mean, creating like a collaborative archive.
We'll explore them on the show too. Eventually, I'm going to be cutting up everything into highlights and then moving everything to specific topics inside of playlists. So if somebody's like, what do you guys think about dreams? I'm like, well, here's, 70 hours of highlights of stuff we've said about dreams over the last whatever period of time.
Yeah.
That's what we think about it.
So, hey, it'll come. Exactly. But so, yeah, I watched that. And where to begin? That was out of this world. But as Aaron, you very well said, it was here as well. It felt like so familiar, but it was within. It was spectacular. I definitely got a lot of downloads that I've been trying to understand myself. And at some point I was like, who can I talk this about with? And then I was like, you guys.
Right on. That's what we want to be here for.
So I don't know how it got there, but especially her name is Claudia, right?
The girl, Golden Age Alchemy.
That meditation was spectacular. I mean, she definitely took us somewhere. And as you know, the rose on my chest was unfolding, and she gave us a space to ask for questions and like take us on their ship. I was like, I don't know if I want to go there, but there's definitely a place that has been calling to me. And then they said, they brought up Alpha Centauri. Like I don't know. I've never been familiar with that. I don't know what's up with that, but they were saying like, they were trying to explain to me. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Alpha Centauri or anything about it.
It just so happens we were looking up this book from 1881, and what's the number forwards and backwards? I could not remember. What's it called, or a word that goes forward and backwards? It's read the same forward and backwards.
Like race car.
Yeah. Or dad. You know what I'm saying? Someone in the chat, pitch in.
I have no idea what they're called. I still can't remember.
I cannot remember at all. Okay, so it was Alpha Centauri, you said, right?
Oh, Alpha Centauri. Oh, I was hearing like a completely different word.
Palindrome?
You said it in a beautifully fascinating way. I like it.
She got
palindrome.
it. Yeah, it's a palindrome.
I said parallelogram.
You said parallelogram. I was like, yeah, it's not parallelogram.
I was like, yeah, you're right. I don't think it sounds right. Okay, hold on. So this is interesting. So on this thing we were looking at, Zach and I were looking at today, actually, earlier when we were chatting. So
let's make Aaron big so everybody can see it. Show it again, please.
Yes.
It's a correlation list for those that maybe aren't watching. It's a correlation list between constellations, the Hebrew alphabet, and it shows kind of the layout of the constellation and basically shows how the Hebrew alphabet is actually mapped over basically constellation charts of the age in which it was created. And it's basically a chart correlating all of these things.
So the interesting thing, correlating the resonance with the actual original Kabbalistic meaning and interpretation of the singular letters and the ways that would chant and own them, connecting you then theoretically right to the actual star system, which is interesting. So there isn't a specific Alpha Centauri in here like we were able to find. Like there's Sirius and there's other ones, but I was thinking of Aleph, which is the first letter in the alphabet, which is also Taurus, Aleph Taurus, Alpha Centauri. Centaur, Taurus. It's interesting, but it's Aldebaran is in that constellation.
Aldebaran is Orion as well.
Oh, really? What'd you say? Yeah. What'd you say, Lilac?
You're cracking the code. I love how you're breaking it apart in all of its like little pieces.
It's interesting to note to bring this up that there is actually a Hebrew correlation. You're just not finding it in that book because in a certain way the Hebrew correlation to Alpha Centauri is actually appreciated more often than people would think. It is the nearest star to our current sun, and so it's normally related as a hoof of a centaur creature, but in between that centaur creature's legs, I'm trying to find an image that is not just ridiculously small, and then I'll bring it up on the screen, is a constellation that we call the Crux, otherwise known as the Cross. So it's this Alpha Centauri one, kind of in the same way that Arcturus is near to Spica, and then that ends up being the same letter. I would imagine that this is really about worshiping an angle, right?
Right.
Like that's what it really is in the long run. And if you're looking at Alpha Centauri, like if your left eye was on Alpha Centauri, your right eye would be right on the Crux. You know what I mean?
Huh. Interesting. Well, then Aleph,
I got a good one.
Aleph for Aleph. Aleph is the divine breath, the thing that the divine inhale before the words or the light was spoken into existence. So it's interesting. Aleph.
Boom. Centaurus with the Crux.
Ooh, nice.
And so Alpha, Beta, Centauri here on the left, and then the Crux located here. So in a certain way, you could say that we worship that angle of life through worshiping the cross.
It's interesting. That's in the middle of the centaur.
Half man, half horse is an interesting idea, just symbolically too. Obviously, the man being us. Horse almost always symbolically being like a mode of travel, but especially inside of shamanism, it's a mode of travel between dimensions or formats of life. Like there's like a past, present, future kind of horse. There's horses that travel between dimensions. All these things. The 4 horsemen of the apocalypse are actually a nod to this inside of the Bible. So it's the idea of a centaur. A centaur is a horseman. Let's be very clear, right? So like a horse, like we could say a horseman is somebody who rides a horse, but a real horseman is half horse, half man. You know what I mean? So there's all this stuff.
Okay, so let's keep going, and then more. I'm sure throughout the show, there's more and more that'll come to us about Alpha Centauri, and we'll make connections.
Yeah, no, I was just intrigued if you had any background on that.
No, I'm super intrigued you brought it up. It really has opened up a whole thing that I'm totally exploring while we continue to talk. So
because I've been in touch with the Arcturian frequencies and worked with them, and I found fascinating when you guys were bringing up all of these patterns and finding all of the connections. And they like one of the transmissions that I received throughout the meditation was that like Alpha Centauri brings it around and connects. And so anyways, I'll just drop that if it connects anything for anybody that is knowledgeable of this, because they were dropping a lot of information, but it was fascinating because it was like a lot of timelines collapsing, and it's almost like all of these possibilities that sprouted out are now being brought back into cohesiveness or like more of an alignment at a collective level. So and that was that video. And then I was catching up. I was telling Zach before, the reason I reached out is because yesterday I connected to the live that you did last night, and I put my headphones and I laid back and I went into this like active trance, and it was fascinating because I went into like vivid dream state, and I was introduced to how you guys are, how to put it into a grounded level. I could see at an energetic level how you were weaving all of these energies of consciousness. And then at some point, you guys start talking about the dream world, and you mentioned that you were a vivid dreamer as well when you were a kid. And then, well, it was just all of these connections. Sorry, I guess I lost my.
No, keep going. It's beautiful. I'm loving what you're saying. Absolutely, it's wonderful.
No, I'm loving it. Yes.
Yeah.
I'm just reserving myself not to destroy the flow.
Yeah, please.
Because and it was just fascinating because I work a lot with the Akash, and I see this as a big library. And one of the works that I've done in the Akash is a little bit, and when I worked with people, it was like realigning contracts, right? Where sometimes everything is a yes from the right perspective. So a lot of my work has been to help people find the perspective in which their records or their energy makes sense, rather than going against it or resisting. Is like, how do you bring that into a cohesive or coherent perspective? Yeah, so it was fascinating because I'm like in this deep state. You guys are talking, and it's almost like we're in this quantum conversation because I'm in this archive files, like trying to understand stuff. And it's almost like you guys were answering the questions as your topics came up, where I was like, this is, and then I'm a lot into numerology. And then at some point you guys started talking about number 7. And the 7 sacred injuries came up, and I opened this file, and it's beautiful because it said that there's a lot of wisdom in the Bible, but in some ways it was a little bit kind of twisted. So that's why it resonates with us. But in a, there's always something that crucifies. Speaking of the crux, that crucifies us. So it's almost like they're giving you this truth, but with this conditional or this undisclosed term at the end. And that's what the 7 sacred sins came to be, is the 7 sacred portals for us, because they connect through our energy portals. And it's almost like they locked each one of them with a sin. So we couldn't come in to our truth. And I think at some point you guys were talking about 7 and relating it with the 7 virtues and the power of what number 7 entails. And another thing that was disclosed is that 7 is a divine number because it's the first, if I'm not mistaken, is the first prime number. So it's almost like
isn't that
5 would be prime, wouldn't it?
So it's 1. I think it's divisible by 1 in itself.
I'll get back to you guys on that one, because 7 is like the first one of a certain category of numbers, and it was like you can break down everything into patterns of 7 in the color spectrum, in the music spectrum, in the energy circulatory system that we have, so known in different disciplines. So anyways, it was just fascinating how everything is starting to connect and weaving all of these like networks of consciousness, connecting all the dots. So it's happening in the Akash.
Dude, that is like one of the most beautiful compliments, or whatever, if you want to call it that, I think I could ever receive. That's awesome. And when you say that, I can tune into that too. And like, it just gives words to the energy that's being communicated outside of just the physical avatar expressions over the internet,
It's interesting because very much so. I mean, like, this is definitely something that we're kind of doing purposely, in the sense that we're trying to build like these community things, and we're very much so purposely trying to align a lot of energies. So it's interesting to hear like confirmation of someone just seeing that in their own thing, is like, I mean, I'm very purposely trying to do that,
Yeah.
So
like quite literally all that. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's why I'm just like, because you're basically, it's basically just like somebody's been watching me, right?
Dude, no,
sorry, go ahead.
No, you're so okay. It's the 7 thing. I know. I mean, Zach can go for days on 7. 7's a very functional framework. Zach, maybe start how 7 fits into music.
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh, I don't know actually enough about how Seven gets into music to really actually do that justice. So
All right, I don't either. So I was trying to set you up, but I set you up to fail. My
yeah,
bad.
yeah. There's something about like 7 chords, and there's a lot of stuff. I don't know music theory well enough
Well,
for it.
because I thought, well, here's the thing, man. Isn't okay? I'm pretty sure C to C is 8 notes, right? Or seven, and then eighth is C again, or whatever is A again, the way on the scale. I'm pretty sure. So that's how that works. Same thing as
Yeah, that
13
would be
dimensions,
right.
right? 12 dimensions plus 13. Plus, by the way, Dragon Ball Z, my poster back here, right? And then Dragon Ball Super, they're find out they
There's
have
7 Dragon Balls.
they have universe. Yeah, every planet has, or not every planet has Dragon Balls. Don't get me distracted here. Listen, there's 12 universes, and they're having a battle between the universes, but they're paired each one, so that the total makes 7. So we're universe 7, or sorry, the total makes 13. We're universe 7, and we're paired with universe 6, and they have like a mirror, masculine, feminine, almost dimension, or dimension, but they're the like, replication of the universe. So mirror Earth, mirror, but different histories or whatever potentially.
Mm-hmm.
But it all equals 13, and I thought you'd find that interesting because that's connected to my poster back there.
And I thought you
there's so much to that show. I think it's like a parallel to Avatar. Like they have so much.
Do you know Dragon Ball Z? Oh fuck yeah, man! Right on. It is
Yeah, I
very
saw it.
much
I
like that.
mean, I don't know by heart each episode, but I definitely saw it growing up. So yeah.
Dude, okay. Do you remember? Okay, let's see if you got this episode. Do you remember when Goku went Super Saiyan for the first time?
For the first.
Yeah. For the first time in the United States. We were 10 years behind Japan for the release, but it was the first time in the United States. And for like years, they had literally looped the first 3 seasons.
That's what I was going to say.
They,
I'm not really sure what seasons were. They always repeated episodes.
It was the Frieza saga. It was the Frieza saga. They finally progressed it. And he goes Super Saiyan for the first time. Dude, that was like the experience I had that I talked about being in the theater the other day. Like Moses burning bush scene, this like spiritual experience, man. I realized that's us. It's our DNA, that superhero thing, but at a deep, deep, deep level, man. You know? I mean, if you want to give, if you want, sorry,
that's kind of always how I just always taken the Super Saiyan idea. It's the same thing. I mean, all these ideas of Superman going into the phone booth as Clark Kent, and then he just like he comes back out and he's a superhero. That's like the same thing, you know what I mean? It's
too.
Summoning that inner fucking power.
Yeah.
I like
that. Then your only ego is a pair of glasses, but you put them on and people can't see you.
So fucking weird things.
Dude, so if we have one power as humans, I would imagine that we all share is shapeshifters, right? It's our DNA, literally epigenetic shape-shifting expression to do what the ancestors did and to change your epigenetic expression to shift into a crow or into a bird or into anything. And it comes
even on like a much lower level, we're constantly changing who we are. Like we change how we act from moment to moment. We change over time. You know, like that's shape shifting as well on a very low level.
Totally. Agreed.
Energy benders.
I still have not seen Avatar. I've like seen clips and things enough to go like, oh, I love Avatar. I really want to see that, and I still have not seen it.
Yeah,
the Airbender one. But my brother said it's not worth watching. He said it was done so poorly and bad that it's like not worth watching. Like, oh, bummer. But didn't they make a digital one recently? Or CGI or like a live action? I mean.
Oh, I don't know.
A live action one, huh?
I thought so. I thought I saw previews of that, but I don't know. Anyway, do you see Avatar?
Yeah, I think so. The show, I just really like the concept of energy bending and the elements. Like, I think they could have made more about the show, but it's just like when it comes to that energy, it was like my lane, and I was like, I feel you.
Cool. So, right on. Yeah, isn't that nice to have shows to relate to?
I mean, I love them. And then it makes me even question more my craziness. I was like, I was already thinking this, but if there's a show, it means there's more people involved.
See, to me, that's like the positive side of the collective unconscious coming to the surface through creative expression because they're not all fucking MK Ultra Illuminati controlled. I mean, I get the companies are blah, 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 but I really see pure streams of white light that come through certain shows, man. They're pure creation expressions that have to be allowed through. I think that's part of the contracts here. They can't control all the freedom of expression. I mean, they can. They're getting that. They're trying to pull those cords, but shout out to, well, I don't want to get us banned. To the people that are doing good work out there, man. We're doing our thing. We're ushering in the next stage. But there's other shit going on out there. But yeah, it's good shit.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of truth. I mean, it's inevitable. I think it cracks somewhere, and then if you're conscious enough, you can always get the bottom line of shows. Sometimes I watch movies and I'm like, did everybody see that bottom line? They put it straight up because, and then it happens in reality, and everybody's like, oh, like the show. And it's like, no, it's the opposite. The show was letting us know this was gonna happen.
Right. Well, and so
It's funny you went into the 713 thing, because I basically believe that, like, okay, so there's the 7 hermetic truths. Functionally, for these to be truths, then everything needs to be broken down, and like then everything needs to be able to be those 7 things. And like, I have not found a place where you cannot classify something as some combination of those truths or just one pure expression of itself. But like that, what was the correlation I was doing with the 13? Nevertheless, like these, there's really only like these 7 things are ever happening. And then in the idea of Jungian archetypes, he kind of broke down all kind of meta theatrics of the mind to 13 archetypes. And if you go through like 13 different archetypes, learning combinations of these 7 different lessons, you can find that you have like infinite possibilities of expressions, but there's literally nothing that can happen, especially with humans doing it, that doesn't have just like a mixture of these things brought about by these archetypes. And so there's not actually any way to tell a story without telling like the story, right? Like there's the story, it's the story of existence in a certain sense. You know, so we do the same things everywhere, no matter where we do them. So there always is that creation of that pure white light, is basically what I'm saying.
Where did my phone go? Oh, it's over here. That quote, there's this quote by this guy, Zach Mortimer. I wrote it in the show notes.
Never heard of him. Let's move on.
That's a really good one, man. That's why I wrote it down. That's right.
Hi, Angela. It's good to see you tonight.
Come on, internets. When I find it, I'll bring it back up. So the Jungian archetypes, because obviously that was before. When was Joseph Campbell? That's more recent history, in the 1900s at least, right?
I think Jung was before Joseph Campbell. I'm not sure, though.
Pretty sure.
Double checking.
Jung was like late 1800s, I think he was born.
Yeah, Joseph Campbell was born in 1904. Jung was 100% before him.
Yeah, interesting though. So he's probably going off Jungian archetypes.
Well, not really. I mean, Jung was only 1875, so in a certain way, they're kind of paralleling.
Yeah.
So
only 25
Joseph Campbell has a bunch of amazing shit too. Like, no doubt about that. So his shit's really good.
Yeah, the whole hero thing.
A whole bunch of his stuff. Like he's got just so much good stuff.
Oh, just on me. Hi, Angela. Not only is Angela here, cool. I just like, oh yeah, and that means it's 4:30 in the morning for her. We are well. Thank you, Angela. I hope you are well. Clearly you're up early or up late. So if you're up late, things might get weird, and you can come join the chat too. Actually, why don't we pull Angela in the chat? Angela, you want to chat? Pull up your computer. Because it'd be cool to get Angela's take on Alpha Centauri. Actually, it's still on the screen. I'd love to, Angela. Come on, jump on in.
I caught up on that one as well. Yesterday, blew my mind.
Which one?
On the one with Angela.
Yeah. I've been meaning. I was able to watch like bits and parts here because that was a longer one. But yesterday I finished it and I was just like, it's been days where I've been taking all of these downloads, all of this expansion. It's been beautiful. It's like, this is the best school on earth.
That's cool to hear, because Zach and I, like, we're certainly that. I mean, the reason we can do this every night, it's not because like, oh, we're just gonna stick it out whether we like it or not, because it's making money. It's not making shit. We're not making money. Like, we're enjoying progressing our own paradigms, but also exactly what you're saying. I mean, that's the hope, that in these dialogues, not just us. That's why we have people on the show, because it brings additional frequencies and energies to add to our expression. Because, I mean, yeah, we may be a base frequency carrying the show, but it's like really everybody comes on. Even though we did that meditation, that was awesome. Frank and Paula were on there, and Claudia and everyone, and like beautiful. I mean, people are crying in the chat, like multiple comments, people crying. Like that's what makes this the collective change that it is becoming.
Yeah, it's powerful bandwidth. It's not even a big frequency anymore. It's like a bandwidth. It's like.
Yeah, good metaphor. Zach likes those.
It's funny how that word has like gotten out, because I've referred to like all of these things as bandwidths for like the longest time.
Before people are like, what's bandwidth?
Yeah, but I mean, the idea of basically hopping bandwidths, and there being bandwidths of energy that really you can just like jump on the bandwidth. Really, it's kind of like jumping on the bandwagon. I mean, like really, literally, you can just take on the same shape as it, and then you can experience it. Like it's really like, I know that like sounds like oh my gosh, he just totally oversimplified reality, but it's really actually as simple as that. The shape might be really complex, the way that you take it on might be really abstract or really weird, but there is some way that you can take on the shape of what that experience is, and if you do that, then like, well, you seem to learn what it is through yourself. So
if you ask me, it all comes down to perspective.
And so here's an interesting one. So here's Carl Jung. I've got a whole book here of quotes from Carl Jung. One of 20,000 pages that I printed off during my awesome last 4 years of my marriage. I really enjoyed myself, man. All right, so space flights are merely an escape of fleeing away from oneself, because it is easier to go to Mars or to the moon than it is to penetrate one's own being. And talking about the Arcturian thing and feeling it present here, bringing it in, because our connection to them is not, I mean, if we can, sure, you can connect third eye telepathically externally. How much greater and more solid and more actually internally coherent if you connect through your DNA and through your heart and through your blood, you know?
Exactly.
You're connecting to the same places, but you're going through your own source. You're not going through all this shit, because there's a lot of confusion and there's a lot of extra frequencies and there's a lot of things to throw you off track, or makes it harder to connect that way. But going in, it's interesting.
Oh, thank you for putting it that way. That's exactly, like, you just compounded 3 years of my experience that I was like, it took me 3 years to get there, where I was like, why do I keep going out? Whenever I come back, I'm exhausted. I should just be able to magnetize it my way.
Come on.
So I love the way you put it. It's exactly all the distractions initially. It's just like, yeah.
I think that's really the thing to do. I mean, I think we're really just trying to coagulate density, or that basically we're a condensate of our perception, would be a way of saying it. And really, if you want to, the idea is to get a denser while maintaining purity concentrate that's condensated inside of some type of vessel, which is really like you. And you are the sum of those experiences and the thoughts that you've taken in, really just everything that you've consumed. But you're trying to get a really pure condensate, and they're basically trying to make a crystal. You know what I mean? So you're recrystallizing all of the data that was otherwise disparate out there through basically collection and condensation. But really, in the long run, you're taking all this stuff and trying to get it denser inside. Like everything is to the center of reality. So like you could consider yourself not the center, but that just means something at the center of you is the center, or something at the center of that thing is the center, because everything's centering in. My own personal opinion.
Okay, I want to read a probably less commonly known Carl Jung quote, at least to me. I am an orphan, alone, nevertheless I am found everywhere. I am one, but opposed to myself. I am youth and old man at one and the same time. I have known neither father nor mother, because I have had to be fetched out of the deep like a fish, or fell like a white stone from heaven. In woods and mountain I roam, but I am hidden in the innermost soul of a man. I am mortal for everyone, yet I am not touched by the cycle of aeons. Dude, fuck yeah, man. No wonder he wrote books that were like this thick.
Yeah. He could have just written all day long, I think.
Yep.
Yeah, that guy. He definitely tapped into the unconscious collective, right? he put it out there for
he went for it, man. I mean, I haven't read his works, but Jordan Peterson goes into his thing a lot, and like, man, it sounds like he fucking went for it.
Oh,
it's like I'm going crazy, or I'm gonna bring the most transformative psychological understanding to mankind that there's been in the last few generations. Maybe
I feel like he didn't even ever come like close to the going crazy or anything. He was just like onto it basically from the beginning, and just bringing more data. Just kept looking.
My understanding of his last book, though, what did he do? He intentionally put himself into a psychosis for weeks or something. Like he broke his psyche, not knowing if he was coming back. He did, and that was like the last book he wrote.
The Red Book?
All about that. Maybe. I'm not sure. I just don't know well enough.
I guess I would have to say that in my own personal experience, I've been fairly dangerous with my consciousness. And so to me, when I read that, I don't think like that's not necessarily somebody going crazy. If you're able to
Yeah.
put yourself into a psychosis and then pull yourself out of it, like you're literally the opposite of crazy, right? Like you're able to
Right.
dip into the crazy pool without getting wet. And like that's ridiculous. You know what I mean?
Well, that can be, psychedelics too. I mean, really, when you start to do that, merging it with conscious awareness.
Literally, like Western medicine considers it a drug-induced psychosis when you're having basically a psychedelic state or trance-like state. So they think it is a psychosis. So
But I got what you're saying. No, that's interesting. Yeah, I'm
I was
with you.
gonna joke and be like, "Welcome to the awakening journey, expanding consciousness."
Sure. Yeah, in a certain way,
It's
if
borderline
you're
psychosis, right? Where you're opening up to this, is like, did I just make this up?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've watched some pretty crazy awakening processes in my life, and they were definitely bordering on things that you would see from like a crazy drug experience with no drugs involved whatsoever. Well, so it is what it is sometimes.
When universe wants to wake you up, they'll just shake you. It's like, wake up. So yeah, hey.
All right, come on in. She said in 4 minutes. It has been more than 4 minutes. I sent you the link more than 4 minutes ago. Come on.
I'm happy to hear this. I've learned a whole lot more from strangers on the internet than I ever have in school. That's why, honestly, I think we need really like a big conscious homeschooling repository of information that basically is laid out in such a way that a parent who was a conscious parent that wanted to homeschool their children would have basically a pre-built curriculum that offered a really, really, really broad range of information. Nothing that was going to be limiting, kind of expecting them to not go through all of it, but rather follow the things that are very interesting to the child, but still providing the information that was needed to understand themselves, understand how to manage their psychology, understand the basic things that you need in order to get through life, these kinds of things, without really, we're not trying to program or sculpt these things at all. There is literally things that if you're going to operate in a society, like, okay, like we've learned how to hunt animals better. If you're going to live in a world where you need to hunt animals, that's a valuable thing to teach. You know what I mean? But we need to create a place like, homeschooling is great and everything. I totally support it. Every single person I know that homeschools is like trying to also have their own journey. They're maybe trying to have relationships. Maybe they're trying to run a business, or they have some type of personal aspiration that they're going after. And adding the homeschooling thing on top of that, with them having to make their own curriculum, is like, it really just pushes it over the top. I think it would just be so much more accessible if there was basically a foundation of information that's just free. Like, you want to teach your kids, you come here and you figure out which subject you want to teach to them, and then boop, you click on it and it provides you with like a whole workbook module. Download the PDF, it's got videos and stuff. It answers all the questions. Like, you don't even have to know it, right? And you just build on that repository of information and then just make it freely available. Like, we want everybody to be smarter, right? Like, that literally just enhances everybody's life if everybody is smarter. You know what I mean? So this is worth the time, big time. But this is how we get rid of the stupid accreditation thing, man. If every single kid for a generation is raised off of basically learning off of an open source platform that was compiled on the internet by a communal group effort, right? And that's how everybody is taught, like, their standard things. Why do they then go, but in order for me to know how to like work in your chemistry lab, I need to have a degree from Duke University? Like, that's not a thing that then happens, right? They recognize that, like, I learned all of my standard life skills and everything I wanted to know to sculpt my mind up to basically, like, we'll call it just like a 12th grade area, right? Like, through basically just an internet website that's free. Why are they then going to go, oh my God, I need the accreditation of a university? No, dude, this entire structure topples over quite easily at that point in time. And this is something that, like, this does not cost a lot of money, okay, people? Like, let's get real here. There's a lot of people on the planet, and we realistically could put this thing together with, like, you're talking as like an app in your phone. It's got a whole huge repository of collected information from the whole internet. We could do that whole thing in like 10,000 man hours, and a good like 7,500 of those man hours we could buy for like $5 an hour out of India, and the person living in India is living like a king, and we're building an information educational platform that everyone can use. We even start doing this. You can tie in with stuff like Khan Academy that already has a whole bunch of shit. If we were literally just like, yo, we want to do something to basically just bolt you right on because we already got this other thing, but we're going to give the whole thing away. They're like, well, technically we're about giving the whole thing away too. They jump right on board. They like this is like so within reach. It's ridiculous. Like somebody needs, a group of people need to like sack up and do this. It's ridiculous.
Thank you for putting in the vortex.
Time.
Nope, that will definitely manifest, and we could do a whole show talking about raising conscious children or something. It'd be great to have people on. I just sent it into the crux.
I mean, they're in trouble now.
Speaking of the crux, Angela Miller is now live and in the show. Hi, Ange.
Oh.
Hello.
Let's move. How do we do this?
Hi,
if we move,
an honor to meet you. Thank you for the meditation the other day.
Oh, no problem at all. No problem at all.
Hi, Angela.
Hello, Zach. Hello, Aaron. How are you all?
I'm doing well.
Good.
Mm-hmm.
Good. I really liked your conversation on home education.
Thanks. Also, lower education. The whole thing. The whole spectrum. Information should be free. And why are we not grouping together to put this way on it? Like, okay, people, you like have a lot of time. You watch TV shows and all this shit. Like, who cares what happens for like a year on TV?
Yeah.
Let's just not watch it. And in all those free hours that we just opened up, we work together to either collect information or build lesson plans and things that work towards this. And then you put it onto a place. And then you literally have the whole thing together and you just start going around basically looking for investment. And you would definitely get investment at that point in time.
Okay.
And then you just really have to pay for server space. It's very doable.
Jasmine says, I want my son to be homeschooled. My husband's family is against it because they think he needs to socialize and play sports. He's only 3, LOL. Either way, I'm homeschooling.
If we had, here's the thing though, too. Here's how we actually fight that argument right here.
Homeschooling.
I'm 100%. I appreciate you so much for that. But like, let's say like we really actually have to approach this at some point in time. That objection, right?
Well, it's okay. No, here, let me give you a solution on that because I know a lot of people that were raised homeschooled that are beautiful human beings, very socialized, usually far more educated. And the universities will take these homeschool kids because they teach them Latin, they teach them original languages, they teach them phonetics, they teach them shit that actually matters to understanding life and this reality and how it works, let alone basic finance.
Yeah, but your anecdotal experience isn't going to prove shit to somebody that's like, I don't fucking believe you, Space Jesus. I don't care what you have to say. You're fucking stupid. No. Why would I trust you? What do you have? Do you have a degree from Harvard? Are you a doctor? I don't care what you have to say.
I home educate too, and have done from the beginning.
Nice.
We've had them in different creative learning agencies, focusing on collaboration, creativity, communication. I can't remember what the other C is, but anyway, the idea was to keep them out of the media. Heavy bombardment, no newspapers. I didn't have a TV for 15 years.
Mm-hmm.
I taught them all my wacky ways about energies and so on. And then, you don't really get a sense of the child's interest till about 4 or 5 anyway, 4 or 5 years old. And then they begin to develop their natural interests. And that's at the age, really, that we should expose them to certain things that take them on their own creative development path. So
yeah, I wouldn't teach them shit until 7. I'd just play with them all the time.
Well, I did, and then my daughter really wanted to go to school.
When they start asking questions, that's when you start teaching them. Totally.
Yeah.
It's like, well, you want to know about dinosaurs and shit? Yeah, roar, this is a Tyrannosaurus Rex. This was the big one, but it's not the biggest one. It's just the fiercest one. This over here was the biggest one. That's a Brontosaurus. Can you say Brontosaurus? You know what I mean? Look at when these two fight together, Tyrannosaurus Rex wins every time because this one eats leaves. Yeah, boom, we're teaching people about dinosaurs.
Exactly.
Yeah, but then you just totally stripped the play out of that. Oh, you want to know what?
No way, dude! I'm sitting here playing with real dinosaurs, man. Literally playing.
This is how it works.
I learned about dinosaurs that way, like literally that way. That's how I learned about dinosaurs. I would completely change it. Like, I think that if we do education right, you make it fun and you make it actually efficient. We don't teach them stupid shit. We teach them shit that matters. You don't need anywhere near as much time in school. You basically give them up to 7 to socialize, have fun, all this stuff. That doesn't mean they lose socializing. We're not going to take their life away to teach them. They like 8 hours a day or whatever. They do school stuff because it's worthwhile to their life, and then they go do their other stuff after that. But it's efficient. It's the things that they actually need available free somewhere. Like, you don't have to leave your house if you don't want to, or you can, or whatever.
Yeah. There's
Who the fuck? You don't get to socialize at school anyways. I got kicked out of like
That's
every
what I was gonna
motherfucking
say.
class because I
You
was
socialize
socializing.
after school. You usually play
Yeah.
after school, so
I get kicked out of classes for socializing, man.
exactly.
God, I'm traumatized still.
Well, and the homeschools most of them have provisions so that you can join in the public sports for the local schools. So you can be on the sports teams if you want to do that, or extracurricular activity teams. So they still socialize.
You don't want to do school sports anyways, though. Those kids are bad. You want to do like AAU, Babe Ruth, stuff like that. That's where all the good players play. Like, no, even the kids that are good at school, they also play in those. You don't want to play with the bad kids at school. You don't want to do that. Intramural leagues, man, it's the way to go. They're all over the place. We already got them.
A lot of those. Yep.
Hey, maybe here's the thing. Maybe they would actually have a sense of community, and they would start like a public league that was in their area with the people that were around it. They could build a sense of community, camaraderie, brotherhood, sisterhood, learn to work together, learn team dynamics so that they can work to make sure that they can have defensible spaces in case some oppressive force tries to come in and take their land and force things upon them. They already know how to work as a team. Like, come on. Yeah,
we've been doing it for centuries. We just forgot how to go back to basics. I mean, maybe I'm reducing it. I know there's a lot to it, but I've thought it, and it's like, what if you just teach kids to think for themselves? I believe they can learn anything, because if they can become assertive, they know what their interests are and what they're good at, then you let them unfold, and I see them as plants. And it's like, I can water you and I can give you all of the resources, but you do the growing. Like, you choose your path.
When
I agree with that.
In the whole Christian paradigm, and one of the biggest things when certain like legitimate human beings who just happen to be Christians and pastors, you know, it'd be like, if you want to know if someone's a Christian or not, or like, you know, is a good person, you don't just see what they do or what their material. Follow them around for a week. Like, be with them 24/7. Just how do they handle problems? How do they process shit? How do they whatever? So with the kids, it's the same thing, man. You can't. I mean, I think the cultural shift needs to go from sending them away to be educated to know that every moment, every second of every day, your energetic field, your internal disposition, the way you process things is educating them. The way you interact with them is educating them. And so when you're educating yourself and growing, and you're talking about teaching them how to learn and how to understand frameworks and symbol sets, and then just let them fucking do their thing, right? And understand those dynamics. I think that a lot of the rebellion, a lot of this stuff is not understanding generational trauma. It's people sending kids away to school because we don't know any better. It's a system we're grown in. It's just the whole cultural dynamic creates a lot of a lot of dissonance, I think, between families. And so I don't think that we just accept the rebellious stages. You know, I get establishing their identity. That's one thing. But when we just preemptively, they're just teenagers, it's like, Jesus Christ, man, have you really thought it through, or that you're just repeating that shit?
We're touching the nerve. Exactly. I've always
like they have a script, and they're like, wait, what's happening? Hang on, I got what? Oh, it's teenagers.
It's a massively conscious being. It's a massively conscious being that shifted into its I am technology, if you will, and it goes through puberty and releases 300 different chemicals and hormones from the thymus or thalamus above that only happens during that time. They're understanding a whole new level of existence in this reality that becomes a lot more solidified for a lot of people. So yeah, there's a lot of dissonance, and if you parents don't have some cognitive awareness of our own journey and transitions, and like really thinking through and healing our past, and then, you know, how can we find resonance with our children in those ages? Then we just find some kind of balance by thinking, they're like that, I'm supposed to be a parent like this because they're rebellious, so I need to do this. And it's like, I mean, how well did that work for you? It didn't work well for me. I had to go heal a lot of that shit.
Yeah. Also, I want to say, like she says, you know, she's echoing that there is room for socializing outside of the public school system, but like we're engaged in a dynamic right now where, you know, basically the four of us are actually completely satiating our drive for social dynamicism and interaction and camaraderie and all these things. And we're doing it right now across the internet, not at school at all. So it's totally doable.
Because it really matters to me to physically hug people and be with people. But I know what you mean. It is very satiating.
You could go hug people outside. You're getting a large dynamic of it. Yeah, well, I mean, you know, technically, if you start going to school and you're just like hugging on everybody there, that's a little weird too, man. It really is.
The need for
Yeah.
a physiological dynamic. Like babies needing to be held, and the whole experiments they've done when they intentionally didn't hold babies to see what would happen, and like most of them died, and if not, they had severe like IQ deficient, I mean, massive retardation psychologically, and a lot of them died because they weren't actually
Sure.
physically touched. Anyway, it's just an additional layer, but it's definitely the age we're in that we can all pop on.
I'm not saying that we all like throw away like, hey, I completely support quarantining in your house. Let's all be on house arrest, never leave our computer screen. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying that we are satiating a large level of socializing just through a dynamic that is completely digital. Anyways, if the school
100%.
platform was completely digital as well, outside of going to school, you would still interact with other people in your life just like you do now. But you would already have some level of your socializing still satiated from the digital platform, just like you do at school.
What's cool about that is nowadays the ease of FaceTime or whatever, you can connect with people you want to connect with, not whoever happens to be in your neighborhood and in your school. Like you can connect with people who have a similar soul, even at a very young age. That's really cool.
Yeah. We could get very, very specific about like what kind of classes we're doing and stuff too, and really, really hone in towards what people really actually want to do and where they're at with it. Like, because they could be constantly revolving in a certain way if they weren't attached to the people that they were socializing with. You just always, like, it wouldn't matter whether they, like, they would get progressed along a rate that was constantly happening, right? Rather than just a rate that was like, you're in 7th grade, you're in 8th grade, you're in 9th grade, like big jumps that sometimes they're not ready for and a lot of things. It's a constant graduation, which would be very interesting too.
And especially the thing that always, I mean, I found, I don't know, there's so many things in the system, right, that don't add up. But anyway, like the fact that everybody at 4 years old should be doing the same thing, or by 1st grade, everybody should be reading. I find that every kid, and even especially girls and boys, they unfold very differently because girls are a little bit more intuitive and boys are a little bit more active. So even just trying to standardize their cognitive process into one classroom, I find that's a human crime. I'm just like, let them read whenever they're ready for, and just keeping like infusing them with sovereignty and just like independent thinking processes.
Think about how the structure of society has twisted a truth, right? So that the massive social rights, social justice movements for the 42 pronouns, the different names, him and zer and him and her, like, dude, I fully understand that we have way more than male and female here. That's provable biologically. Like a lot of people don't know that. That is very easily provable. Even the native traditions believed in a masculine, so masculine spirit and a masculine body, a feminine spirit and a masculine body, a true androgynous, and then a feminine body with a masculine spirit and a feminine body with a feminine spirit. So there's a lot of diversity there, but when the culture runs the narrative, there's so many, system of domination, control, overlays and agendas and all that bullshit. So we were aware of those same truths though, but we can present them in a more wholesome manner. Yeah. Okay, since there's a lull on this topic, I really though want to have you dive into, tell us what you know about Alpha Centauri.
Right. Wow.
Because if you, I don't know, did you hear the show earlier? Lilac was saying during the Arcturian meditation, part of what was presented to her was that the star Alpha Centauri during that dynamic, and we're trying to make some connections there.
I mean, it wasn't on my radar as much either. I was like, "Are you sure?" And they were like, "Yep, just drop the cue, and it might connect or it might make sense." Sometimes I realize I get downloads, and then 6 months later it clicks, and I'm like, "Oh, I did have a post-it on that." So
yeah, totally. What a good way to say it.
So just dropping it in case somebody already is in touch with that fiber.
Yes, it's a very and I'm just going from the perspective of how I feel. And it's a very warm place, a place where I've had some really good times. And I mean, in the sense of camaraderie, there's future technology being moved around from that point, but also the character of the energy. There is a blissful sense about it. Bliss is very easy to achieve and maintain as a base level state of being. It's a very supporting energy, actually. that supports their cultural dynamics. Yeah, interesting. So what are you asking me to look at in particular?
Oh, wow.
Do you, Zach, you want to throw up that is that picture handy? Because that'd be interesting if she saw that, the dynamic of the centaur and the cross and all that.
That was a beautiful read, by the way. You really worded the frequencies that I received, so I appreciate that. That's pretty nice.
She's a pretty good tour guide.
Yeah, I was almost exactly. That's the perfect exactly.
Let's see. Lilac or Jasmine said yes. Lilac, my son, has always been termed a late bloomer, but that's not accurate in my opinion. Not because he's my kid, but because everybody's is different. Yeah.
And you could say, just to answer that and not cut off from the Centauri, but that's fascinating because I was in one sense always a late bloomer, quote unquote, but then I took off on other tangents and they were always kind of bringing me back like, no, you have to be reading. But I was fantastic with numbers and I was like, no, I want more math. And they were like, no, it's grammar now. And I was just like a late bloomer in all of these areas and I had to compensate. So I feel probably your kid is like phenomenal in a very good niche. So as a parent, I think the more we get to know our kids and infuse them in that lane, it's definitely going to build a more confident being. So kudos to the late bloomers.
What does that, I mean, what does that mean too? Like, is that even like a bad thing if they do bloom late? You know, like the beauty of a flower was never determined by the length of its vegetative state. You know what I mean? That was not a thing. Like some of the most like the flowers that people are most actually surprised with are ones that only bloom every like 8 years. They're a super late bloomer. Most years they don't even fucking do it. You know, like that's way late. So, you know.
Yeah, but that's funny. That's how I felt with the Arcturian meditation that I was watching it today a week later. But it resonated divinely today. So I was like, okay, I'm 7 days lag.
I think really like, especially with videos and thing, I don't know if you guys have noticed it, but especially through social media, I find it like fascinating how much energy you can pick up off the people that you're interfacing with, or even just their content. You can kind of tell sometimes even like what kind of mood they were in when they created their piece of content or something. So I think if you know, if that's actually happening, can we not basically just tap into functionally the same vibration that they were in when they were creating that piece of content? And functionally, we're really in the same place. I think we're leaning too much into like this space-time exists kind of thing if we don't think we can, tap into the same place. And like, I get the space-time thing. It's better if you're in the same place. If we're literally like wrapped around each other and all of our conscious focus is on connecting with one another, we're more connected than if all of our conscious is focused on it, but we're not wrapped around each other. Like, there's another dimensionality of it. I'm not taking that away, but like, at what level is enough? Like, when do we have enough connectivity to say that we're interacting on a level that is tangible, meaningful, real? Like, how connected do I actually have to be with you? Dude, I've had like fantasy escapades in my mind with people that were like shared with them from the other side of the world that were like some of the greatest times that I ever had. And it was very real to me and it was very real to them. And like, it's a memory that I still have. Like, I think about it right now and I like crack a little smile in my head. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's like, it's just as real. Like, so how much do we really have to be there? I really think we can just tap in to whatever we want, whenever time we want.
I'm with that. I'm so with that. And it's much more economical.
So much more economical. Who wants to keep, like, in a certain way, like these maps of like linear infinitude and all of the positions and everything? Like, that's cool. I love data too. But like, do you understand how big this data set is? It's really big. Really big.
Yep.
Like, it's hard to grasp. I mean, I've tried. Bob was in here talking about Indra's web. He pieced out now, but he was talking about Indra's web the other night and talking about seeing Indra's web. He knows what I'm talking about. You start looking at that and you're like, woo, that's a little bit too much connectivity and complexity for me to just be like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna memorize it. Like, no, you're not actually.
Let me take a bite on that.
Yeah. If someone can memorize that, I will eat my shirt right now. You know what I mean? It's just like, it's amazing. There's no way.
Well, I agree. I
So,
think that epigenetic activation, with all the stuff we've talked about over time, the era that we live in, plus doing your own work to clear out the things that would cause resistance to you expressing you in the time and era that we live in. So teleportation or lighting cigarettes or whatever, just by it with our hand or a conscious thought or whatever. I do think those things are coming. So we already know, or I guess, I don't know, who knows, but like even when you described into, I mean, with the higher level esoteric dynamics, there's a lot of stuff they do, meeting in the astral, carrying full conscious awareness back to their bodies, full visceral interactions, having all sorts of, there's all sorts of government shit. Like it's the real realms that people do operate in with technology. I think maybe some, but then also, I think it's very organic to do that and beyond. So I agree with you totally. Having some kind of digital realm, or not digital, like consciousness realm that we create, and we all meet there in some form of time, or you go there at any given time, but whenever you show up, it's the right time, and there's a cohesive coagulation in that time because it's a sphere that's outside of space and time, which makes sense to me.
That's why it's really important to dream.
If everything, like, if life is but a dream, like this whole like idea that anything you're not on time, like that's preposterous. Like dreams don't care about time at all.
They don't. But you can certainly get a lot done in those dreams.
Oh,
you can get a lot done if you don't believe in time.
Yeah, absolutely. You are safe from negative frequencies if you live outside a time concept.
So is that like creating a negentropic bubble around yourself, Zach? A little negentropic warp field?
In a certain way, yeah.
Yeah, could be.
That's the whole like the coincidental opposition thing, and to get rid of, I mean, like space, and like space is a dualistic concept, right? If we're talking about like matter, we also talk about like it has to also not exist too, right? So that's dualistic. Anything to exist also is now dualistic by the balance of its non-existence being also discernible of that it exists. The lack of non-existence is also proof of its existence. You know what I mean? So it's always dual as soon as it exists. So, but I mean, if we get away from that idea, which I understand is a lot easier said than done.
Okay, so just eject yourself out of the idea. I'm trying to do that too, because I don't want to be restricted by a dualistic system of any kind. So what does one do in that situation?
I mean, literally, you just choose to bail out, I think.
Yeah.
And like, there's probably like you probably block yourself with a can't. Oh, you know, like I would just completely not believe in time, but I can't because I'm tired right now and I need to go to sleep currently. Otherwise, I'm going to be late for work. Right? Well, it's like, actually you could, if you really did it out, like if you really wanted to apply yourself to that, you would have to learn how to operate in such a way that if you were not interested, just like wanting to go to sleep, that's not a thing you did. And so you got to start training yourself somewhere, you know?
Yeah.
I have the weirdest sleep patterns ever, man. Like I've gone huge swaths of my life sleeping probably like 2.5 hours average on night, to the point where people like, I've had so many people that are like, I don't understand how you do it, man. I'm going to try it out. And then after like 4 days, they're like, oh my God, like I feel sick and everything. I can't do it. I got to switch. You know, it came as a byproduct of the fact that, like, really, I mean, if we're completely honest, I wanted to play video games more than I wanted to go to sleep a lot of times. A lot of times. So I ended up playing video games instead. And slowly but surely, you know, I had so many different situations where like, I didn't go to sleep at all last night, and it is now 6:30 in the morning, and I need to be to work at 7, and I work until 5 p.m. So I guess we're going to see how this goes, and then you do it, and like that's what it was. And the next night, you don't want to play video games as much. You get back to your house, and you're like, I'm fucking going to sleep immediately. This is ridiculous. You know what I mean? But then you actually want to be asleep, and this is living outside of time, like in a certain way. You know,
totally.
I also think you should sculpt yourself in a way where you don't have to wake up and go to work at some specific time. Like, I don't really think that's a good setup, but, you know, your profitability of your business might depend on it, even if you start your own business. So it's agreements, dude, and contracts. What do you want to be when you grow up? Because it costs something. You know what I mean?
Attention.
You want to be a successful podcaster, Aaron? Going to need like 4 to 5, maybe 6 hours of your night. and like 2-3 hours of your day, and like let's get like another hour of planning somewhere in there that you do on your own that takes you away from thinking about other things, and then maybe you'll have a chance. Okay. It's just like this agreement that you make, and like you don't think about that part. You're like, man, it'd be so cool to just like podcast, and next thing you know, it's like 11 hours of your day you're doing something that has to do with that, and like that's what it costs. That's the price.
And time's the ultimate cost, exchange of energy, and 3D linear time in a sense, right? Where you put your
True.
time.
That's the currency. That's the real one. We change it for money sometimes, but the real currency is time.
Functionally.
In this game, in this body, in this game, and the way it works, yeah, man. What are you doing with your time, man? Are you wasting your time? Wasting a sense, nothing's a waste. It's perspective. It's how you use that time. But are you resisting part of your time here, whatever that is, because you're stuck and there's egoic attachments? And I'm not undermining this, or heart, soul attachments to things or people or places or whatever. And there's a resistance, and your soul knows that it needs to expand out beyond to something else. And that's where the leaps of faith and the liminal space come in. We've all got them. I'm dealing with my own right now. I'm part of a family business and figuring out how to work that equation so it comes out beautifully and not me dropping that like it's hot and just doing this at some point soon. So that's fine. Like there's a lot of things, who knows that, but so far I'm going with my track record of incredible victories of like, even just through my life, right? I've been thinking about the different dynamics more, before I had obviously as much hindsight and other things. But even the case that happened with the guy that molested me when I was 12, when he was the first pedophile in Washington State history, precedent-setting case for the first guy pedophile to plead guilty as charged. So those dynamics, and then consciously trying to do that, and the relationship I was in, any different dynamic to outcreate the situation. So far going so good. So I'm riding that bandwave that we get our cake and eat it too in every fucking regard. And I'm not going to stop myself being like, well, I can't. I'm going to have to. It's going to end bad. Blah blah blah. I refuse to hold on to those timelines. If they happen, they happen. In the meantime, I'm holding I'm magnetizing in the feeling in my body of those things ending beautifully. And then that helps me reorient every moment of the day, even when it can get a little unbalanced. But find ways to figure out a new equation, new symbol set to create an internal disposition, because the feeling is the prayer.
I love that.
Me too. I'm figuring it out as I say it. Like, it's just beautiful. It's cool that we get to talk about it.
Yeah, we say like, it was believed in some esoteric societies that everything like begins with a thought, but I think there probably is something even simpler behind that is really a lot more like a feeling. It really actually kind of precedes that thought. So if we have an experience and it comes in from the outside, right, functionally, and then we interpolate that, I think the thought precedes the feeling, because we have the intuitive.
But we know, though, the heart already will predict a circumstance that's coming through the Heart Math Institute 6 to 11 seconds ahead of time. Your nervous system. So what is you? Are you talking about your conscious mind? Because obviously your subconscious and whatever else is going on with technology
you have no awareness of this interpolation. It functionally has not crossed your sensory perception. Unless you are actually capable of knowing and discerning what that is coming in through your heart 6 to 11 seconds before that, which I'm well aware that in heightened states of focused consciousness you can do. Right. But with how we're normally operating right now, we functionally have an intuitive experience that we logically process, and that logical process kind of fires off a chemical reaction which generates a more long-term feeling. This this heart thing that you're saying, this is functionally the intuition peaking, which is not the same as feelings. Intuition and feelings are not the same thing. We cross them up because we say like, I have a feeling it's like this. But it's not the same thing.
Well, so to parse words, the way I feel like I've reconciled that, I feel like this is what you're talking about. So correct me if I'm wrong. But parsing emotions versus feelings. Feelings being intuitive, emotions being reactive. Emotions is jealousy, rage, anger, but it can be positive too, visceral, joyful reactions. But the feelings are intuitive. To me,
I'm not sure. Almost I would go the opposite way about it, but that's just because I think of emotions as being energy in motion. You know what I mean? And so the intuition is picking up the energy and motion, and then that's sparking an internal feeling.
Okay, so the feeling then can be a choice also, right? So like the prayer.
Every motherfucking thing on the existence of existence is a choice, in my opinion.
Or learning how to cultivate the choices, internal, many thousands maybe of little mechanisms that you have to build into your subconscious and your subroutines to actually cultivate the feeling state you want to have in your body in this, whatever the external state is around you. Car
The big
accidents are
problem
really
is
interesting.
autonomy. We've done things so many times that we normalize a reaction and we functionally autonomously operate. When I have this impulse or this type of situation, whether it's intuitive or it's a logical thing that I see, I go through this cyclical process. I basically run a subroutine based off of that call, right? So this is not good. You have to reprogram the subroutine. You can't just like stop out the calls. So
that's correct. So that's what I'm saying. So that's
the choice lies in the reprogramming of the subroutine, basically.
Right. So that's the inner work over time and self-awareness of where there's decoherence or incoherence from the feeling states you want to embody in a given situation, so that you react. Your reaction is in alignment with your desired response, so that most of your reactions now are just actually how you would have responded if you.
Can we not use the word reaction, because I don't think humans should react.
Well, I'm differentiating between when you react, right? That's the point, is to bring a reaction.
Do that.
I know.
In my dialogue, I don't do that. I don't do reactions, right? I do actions based off of choices that I make based off of data that I pick in and how I felt about it and how I logically perceived it.
So do you feel like you can differentiate any time in your life where you've reacted without thought, and after the fact?
I have reacted before, but I do not react anymore, and I don't think humans should. I think if you're going to react instead, you should breathe.
Right.
Like literally stop what you're doing, no matter how much pressure is being put on you, and just breathe instead until you can act consciously from a choice.
So are you talking about an inflamed reaction or a bodily function reaction?
I mean, okay, so when we're saying when we're saying bodily function reaction, I think you're saying like something happens and then maybe there's like a purge that happens because of it. Because that's not a reaction to me, that's a response. But it's as a byproduct of the call that is whatever generated the purge. So it's a purgative response. A reaction is very much so like chemical. When you mix two things together, there's no way to stop them from doing anything other than this.
Right.
And that's like, I don't believe that's ever true. Even if the two things have been mixed together, like I can just separate them and ferment them and it's all good. Like
with our consciousness being engaged. So that being them differentiating, when your consciousness is engaged, you can become to a constant living state of responses, not reactions. So I totally agree.
Sure.
Differentiating the two.
So
so we are talking about people who are reacting instead of responding.
Yeah.
Correct. You're talking about spectrum,
yeah. And it's the neural response that takes place. I'm just thinking about programming and how the genetic mutations, transmutations, interferences that have taken place in that area, that response-led area in the brain, the medulla.
Medulla oblongata.
That's the one. So that was interfered with by the interlopers. It's fascinating. So there was sometimes we found like spaghetti in them, like chopped programs, sliced on purpose, precision kind of carvings, branding, all sorts of things in those areas. So humans shouldn't, by rights in their natural form, do that, react. But they do because of the faulty wiring that's gone on in those programs. It's quite mad. Quite scary to a lot of people.
Well, it's finding ways to understand that a person is smart and can think for themselves. People are always a dumb herding animals or something, right? That's why you got to tune out of mainstream news, man. That's why you got to tune out of certain stuff. You tune into you and tune into tribe.
People are a dumb herding animal.
Right, it's true, man. Because people don't realize the program. I mean, everyone in the state. I mean, since COVID and all that shit happened, you know, people who just they are no longer the person you knew. They are programs. Really, they have a little personality
I'm sure
left. But like,
they got to be
whoa.
out there for sure. Yeah.
No, I've met a lot of them. I met a lot of people. I do
I'm
them
sure.
essential service. Like
Yeah.
they're just, and it's not like necessarily 24/7, but when it comes to certain subjects, and sometimes more and often than not, they've taken on a whole worldview because they've found resonance with whatever narrative they've heard, and they believe it.
Yeah.
You know, so like that's what do you believe or whatever? What are you putting your energy and focus on? Because that's what matters. That's what will tune you into yourself, and the shit around you will not bother you in the same way at all. You won't even perceive it the same way.
Sure.
Live outside of time. Sorry, go ahead, Lilac.
Oh no, exactly. I mean, I was seeing all of this at different levels, and it's fascinating because at some point it touches, I mean, in maybe a more ethereal aspect is like the mindsets, right? The mindsets is like the framework that we create in which energy flows through. And then as you tweak the mindset, you kind of adjust the way you receive energy. So it's almost like mindsets are like abstract antennas, right? And we set it in a way where we receive information in that shape or form. And it's actually fascinating because thoughts have forms. They've done different experiments, and they get a collective and they focus on a thought, and then they can map the frequencies. And I was seeing all of this kind of blending together, and it's crazy how we've been programmed with certain structures. So they send information and we can only see it, you know, through that lens. Yeah. And then what you were talking about, the medulla, how it connects and it kind of reflects in that structure as well, like how it penetrates the whole system. It's crazy.
Yep, directly to heart.
So deprogram.
Yeah. Is that that's the way that we understand it too. I mean, it controls a whole lot of important functions. Sits at basically the top of the spine, bottom of the brainstem. So it's kind of, in a certain way, a very functional, like it's going to get everything, you know what I mean, that comes through the brain.
Like the hard drive or Raspberry. I don't know.
It's which is all. I mean, that's a smart. If I was running this kind of computer, that's where I would install autonomous things, right? Like at a very deep level, directly. Like it's basically directly interfaced with the hardware, right? Like that's the layer to hack it. You don't do it like some high level hack where it's sitting basically on like the first level of programming. You want to get very deep to where it's operating basically at like the machine language, where it's interfacing directly with the hardware. That's actually a good hack to programming. Like you wouldn't hack this like the shit at the code level. That's for fucking amateurs.
Can I ask you a question, Zach, about translator programming between that interface?
Sure. I don't know if I know anything about it, but we'll see. Probably do.
I think so. So could you describe its function?
The function of the medulla?
No, the translator program between the interface between feeling and emotion, and how that translates into each other.
Well, sure, I can say how basically I would understand it. Okay, so functionally, when you have a chemical response inside of your body, or you have a thought inside of your body, you generate waveforms. You're always going to generate waveforms. So whether it's actually comes in by something that you would understand as basically the inside propagation, which comes from functionally the feeling, right? We're saying this is the one that comes from inside, I guess, right? Then this is going to generate just an outward waveform. The other one is going to generate an inward waveform. At the end of the day, whatever waves are propagating from either way, they don't matter until they get to a conjugate space. But when they get to a conjugate space, this is where you talk about basically the actual translation and where this is actually sitting. Shit happens, you translate it. That's how it goes. Like your reality is your translation of shit happening. There's nothing happening, just everything. Everything is happening. You know? Yeah, you're basically giving it an average in a certain sense. You give it a meaning. Right? So it's the action of bringing an average to the waveforms that you're experiencing functionally. But that's just because you place yourself in the middle of them so that you can see them from above and below. This is the entire idea of the principle of correspondence in hermetics, alchemy, whatever you want. Is it, like if you can't see something from above and below, you don't know shit, pretty much. Like you don't have enough perspective. Your context sucks, in other words. So
timeline.
Really, I think we need both. Like we have both of these in every experience. I'm all about basically the reverberant wave theory in a certain way, that like everything happened, but it didn't really happen until it came back across itself in a certain sense. So when you're talking about this like thought feeling architecture, you put yourself basically in the middle of that. So the most efficient way for you to experience both waves at the same time is to place yourself in the middle, so that when they come from both sides, you catch them both right away. If you're like over somewhere off to the side, this one takes longer to travel there. After this one hits you, there's a syncopation or a delay. It doesn't make any sense. You want to be right in the middle of basically this entire thing. It's yet another reason for balance, just because it's quicker. It's just faster machinery. Like if you were to develop yourself as basically a programmer, a robot, or whatever, you would make it like this if you took the time to think about it. If you made it a different way, you'd be like, oh, fuck, this one sucks. We need to make MK2. And you would make it this way then, because you would notice this. I have a fucking lag time. I have this syncopation problem. I have all kinds of problems with data interpolation, because this one is at this strength and this one's at this strength, and they're meeting at different times. And why am I doing all of this math? Let's just move the fucking thing to the middle, you know?
I saw alternate current like this happening. Just like, we have to bring that.
Exactly. It's just so much work for the machine to be like, okay, get the thing and then wait and got it, and then get the thing and then wait and then got it, instead of just being like, okay, got the two, okay, got the two, okay, got the two. You know, it makes much more sense to balance in this way. And it's probably not two, you know. I mean, you can understand things as twos, but anything that's a two you can understand as fours and eights as well. It's just a game that you play with yourself. You break it up into more separations. It doesn't matter. It's evenly symmetrical. That's what matters. Evenly symmetrical. If it's evenly symmetrical, it can be 2, 4, or 8. It doesn't matter. Really does not. So, yeah, I don't know. You translate shit from the middle, and you translate both of them basically at the same time. But the translation is all about conjugation of a waveform coming together at what you could understand as what you are and shit that's happening.
Beautiful.
Bro, you got super high on that joint before you started that slow, and that I started to peak during that. That was wonderful. That was awesome. I was tuned in on that in so many levels. That was so enjoyable to let you do that thing.
It's funny because like while I'm doing that, I'm going, but my mom had this shirt when I was younger. That like this actually got propagated. This is back before memes were memes, and they only put them on T-shirts at like joke stands and shit, right? But it had like 9 different religions or something, and it had their way of saying like what their religion was, with just basically the idea of going like shit happens was one of them. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I remember seeing those. Yeah.
Yeah, I could try and find the meme, but this shit is pretty funny. Just every religion's different way of saying that. Yeah. But really, like it's actually true, man. It really is that simple. There's a bunch of fucking shit happening, and then you're experiencing some of it.
just how far up the colon are you? That's the question.
That is a solid question. How deep does the rabbit hole go, right? Like,
man,
it's a different kind of rabbit hole when you think about it like that. But
yeah, you either get so far in you realize the way out is the way you came in, or you're already too far in and you break the system. Been there, done that a few times.
Nice.
I find in perfect line with this metaphor, if you spend too much time down a rabbit hole, you'll find you're having a shitty time. So.
You can put it, but I like what Aaron said. It's like you break it. You're like, I'm done with the system. I'm just gonna break from
I'm done with it. I gotta go. Yeah. Yep. You don't want to think in the same way for too long. It's very dangerous. It makes you weak. You're easy to find. You're doing the same thing all the time. You're predictable. Predictability is not really your friend, I don't think.
Oh no, it goes right along with programming.
Exactly. Yeah. The best programming is like amorphous programming that recodes itself on the fly all the time, instantaneously, to be best for the moment. It immediately upgrades whatever programs are available that are even like 0.00001% more efficient. I'll take it. It doesn't matter because it's boom. Got it. Why not?
I'm going to put that on my manual.
Describe where I live.
Yeah. It's like when you go to a restaurant and they ask you if you want to like add something to the plate, and you're like, well, how much is it? And they're like, it's free. And you're like, I mean, I guess, like, I'll take it. You know? You'll always take it, even if you don't fucking want it. You still take it.
Why would you not take it? Hello.
Yeah. You're like, I guess I'll put cheese on it. It's free, right?
Because if you have a belief system that keeps you from receiving it, which is interesting because that's really
right.
an
No, sorry, I don't eat cheese, actually, so I won't take your free things. I'm not interested in your free nutrients. I don't need those to live because I do not eat cheese nutrients.
I'd rather
it's
die.
Not for me. This is not against anybody who chooses not to eat cheese. If you choose not to eat cheese, I totally support your decision. I think everybody should do what they want. But in line with that, one of the things I want to do is have an opinion about basically everything, apparently.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. No, I get it. That's like diplomacy, man. That's not like, to me, like, I go through times and seasons. I'm going to be doing the breatharian thing at some point. I've been wanting to do that for a while, for like 10 days. It's probably when I'll do that. That Ray Mayor's done that. It's all live online. They had 8 days that was live recorded with his blood. Like, it's a real thing that actually your body can do through these different processes of putting it also having the time to be able to stay in meditative states and whatever, and read. I mean, really just relaxing and just being present, whatever. But, and they have different traditions you can go through. But, I don't know where I was going with that, but you said something about lots of opinions about a lot of things.
Yeah, I have opinions about everything. I'm functionally just the antithesis to all of the indecisive people on the earth.
Yeah, you like playing that
We
role.
need more
For all the times that your girlfriend, when you asked her where she wanted to go eat dinner, she was like, I don't know. Well, I had to be decisive about something. And for every time that you wanted your husband to commit, or the guy you wanted to be your husband to commit, but he was like, I don't know if I can yet. I had to be decisive about something. I'm the balance. The other side. Yeah. I'm decisive about everything, and I'll stand in my position. Even if it's wrong, I'll just get destroyed for being wrong, and then I'll rewrite my opinion. It's okay. I'll still hold it. It's fun.
Somebody has to. Somebody has to. I love that. I mean, I kind of like where you're coming from. I've always been very self-conscious because they call me opinionated, and I was like, okay, so I have to choose my battles wisely. What am I going to put an opinion on? Which, I mean, you've done the homework. You've educated yourself. I still have, some gaps there, but I like having an opinion.
I did this when I was like 11 years old and didn't know shit. I still had an opinion on everything.
Well, yeah, I was like that as a child. Maybe it's already wired in. I have to figure out where.
Yeah, this was the little boy in me didn't actually get completely abandoned like the little girl in me. So the little boy in me was completely opinionated. He still exists. This is him. He has an opinion about everything. He sounds like he knows exactly what he's talking about, but there's quite a few things that he doesn't know yet. It's fine. He still has an opinion anyways.
Yeah, he does.
I second that.
You do not have to know everything to have an opinion, okay? You can have an opinion without knowing anything at all.
So me and Zach obviously drive pretty well, but I was waiting for these moments. We're humans, and we have way too much in common. Like, I don't know, maybe, and it just gets amazing to me, like at core levels, like, holy shit, man, awesome. There's another facet of a trillion facets in this life, but you're kind of covering massive swaths in ways that are like, right on, cool, right? But then there's certain things we get in a conversation, and like I express something that I believe at this point my experience is like I'm pretty tuned in. Like, I feel like this is fact for my reality, and he's like, yeah, I don't think blah 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 blah, blah, but bam, and I'm like, all right, well, let me reroute that topic, and we're just not going to dive into that right now. Let me change my symbol set, and so we can keep having a conversation.
I guess maybe I should take that into account. I like just hitting like head to head. Let's see what it is. Here's my briefcase, man. It's opened up. It's got all my data. Does your data beat it?
Dude, magic cards.
I just show my cards all the time. I go all in on every fucking hand. Every single fucking hand, I'm just like all in, and they're like, "You don't have shit," and I'm like, "Maybe not, but here's my cards. Let's see what we got." Like, I don't care whether I win. I'm just playing cards, guys.
Let's figure out how to do
and
that.
Joe can actually functionally say this in the chat party at Zach's place, because Zach's place is actually Joe's place. So,
nice. Yeah, you got 3 people over, bro. You give it space.
Yeah. Yep. So, anyways, it's okay to have opinions. It's totally fine. You just have to be okay with other people having opinions and agreeing to disagree.
That's That's a soft spot.
I'm totally like Aaron. You can think the complete opposite thing about reality as me. I'm totally fine with that. We'll just live in two different ones. We can still hang out.
Yeah, no doubt. It's really cool though. How much of our realities overlap, man? That does make it way more fun. I'm sorry, it does.
Yeah. It's interesting where it overlaps. It's more interesting. I mean, the more overlaps in the same place, the more interesting. That's what I think.
And what do you mean? More overlaps in the same place?
I really honestly mean like about 108 things with that statement at the same time.
What degree should I address this question?
There's a lot of overlap inside of that statement.
Fantastic. I like where this is fractaling down to into our supportive Alpha Centauri.
Yeah, no, like the likenesses that you have with somebody else, the more of them that you have, or it can actually be differences as well. It determines the magnitude of the relationship. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So, like in that way, you can say that there's this aspect of it, but there's many other aspects of it too. Like I think the fact that you can have an experience where functionally you're an atomic body, you're a molecular body, you're a physical body, macroscopic, you're like a mental body, a spiritual body, all of these things. This can functionally be understood as like convergent waves, right? Like there's many harmonics operating at the same time. And where there's many, many harmonics collapsing at the same time, the more harmonics there are, the more interesting the place is. Functionally, because there's more shit happening.
Yeah.
It's not like a biased interest. It's not like, ooh, I'm interested in giraffes, not rhinoceros. It's not like that. It's like there's more animals, so it's more interesting.
There's more harmonic resonances, so there's more music being made, really, to dance to.
And maybe it's not even resonance. It could be complete cacophony. That's interesting, too. It doesn't matter.
It's interesting, yeah.
Just where they're all coming together.
But finding resonance...
The crux.
Oh, excuse me. The coconut water.
It's funnest at the crux.
Finding ways to bring cacophony, chaos into order, but not structured, rigid order, into some brand new form of interdimensional flow and dance. So there's harmonic resonance.
Sure.
You know, like in every way possible. So that
I realize that cacophony and dissonance are literally just coherence and harmony seen in a mirror. Like they're the same thing. If you don't think that a bunch of do you like jazz?
No.
When I've heard it in the right some context, but
if you don't like jazz, then you don't understand how the cacophony and dissonance is possibly sometimes the beauty in the rhythm and the harmony. It's exactly the part that stands out from everything else being. Everything else is perfectly timed, cyclical, and rhythmed, and the thing that stands out the most is the thing that goes like that dissonance and cacophony is exactly the beauty in the song. It's the entire reason why the song is good is because of the cacophony and dissonance, because it's literally the harmony and resonance in the motherfucking mirror.
Dude, I'm gonna smoke another one of these. This is great. You're just doing awesome, Zach. I love this.
Shout out to Miles Davis, Duke Ellington, a whole lot of people that a guy like me never should have listened to, but they know what they're talking about, man.
But he did, because he practiced to only sleep 2.5 hours a night because he liked video games, but he turned his DNA on one way or another, man.
Yeah, and internet videos, video games and internet videos all night long, 2 monitors. Do
you remember? Dude, I did that too when I was going through my depressed state, eating tons of ice cream, and I was playing video games. I went through the Need for Speed series, and I was blasting through the Stargate. Yeah, I think it was the good game. It was the full game. I was doing that, and then also like Legend of the Gaia 2 on PS2. I'd always go back to that. It's like my all-time favorite RPG. But I'd also be watching Stargate, like the Stargate series. So I was my brain and all the symbol sets in that and the storyline super engaged. My little avatar fucking playing video games, loving that shit, gauging the digital dynamic and all the other fucking like at the same time, man. Cool shit.
Yeah.
It was very, very productive. Even when I was depressed. And I was eating ice cream all the time. It was great. In some regard. Even though I like wanted to die right at that age and it was just awful, but looking back now,
it was great, even though I wanted to die.
Yeah.
Oh man, I like that you're okay with coincidental opposites as much as you are, because I'm the same way. Like some of the greatest nights of my life, I feel like I died like 11 times on that night.
Dude, the last time I died, the last time I almost died, like the worst experience I've had, probably almost coming to death. It was I fucking got to meet a slug, and we all got to meet him together, and I drew him out, man. How cool is that? How could I have any negative experience feeling now? But here's what I did in the meantime. We talked about this, dude. I had to very intentionally build these constructs to set aside that energy, so it did not settle into my body as a trauma. Right? I had to set that. I had to be like objectively get that off for a little bit. And it was fine. I was ready to shelve it. And then the slug thing came in, and it totally gave me some kind of coherent filter frequency thing. I was like, oh, and then I could take of it what was in resonance or harmonic resonance with me or whatever that my body could handle, and felt it like integrate in my DNA. Like, how cool is that shit? So what now? Like heals the timeline. But even if I had a trauma, I could go back and heal the trauma in a similar way by walking yourself through the process I just walked. I just did it preemptively because I've just learned to do that shit.
Sure. Yeah, like 5 years in the future, when I feel the world is ready to really actually talk about the topic, we can talk about manifestation by way of tesseraction. It's very fun.
Interesting. So Willow says, and before we answer this, I want to say this for a while. I very much
meditative state while playing video games, super heightened focus, 100,000. Meditative state to me is focus state, and playing video games, big time focus state. I used to play EverQuest with 14 accounts at the same time and listen to an audio book at the same time. So I was leading raids of like 40 people, playing literally like 22 hours a day. I only slept like 2 hours a day, and the whole rest of the time I led like large scale raids with playing like 12 to 14 characters at the same time, listening to audiobooks. Hardcore focus, hardcore multitasking, and meditative state, big time. Like days disappeared on end.
So what have you found? So you found an external stimulus to get you in a meditative state like that. What do you have?
Something to focus on.
Yeah, but okay, but what do you use now? Do you have something else? Like an
what do I
external
use
way,
now?
Not like closing your eyes or meditating, because your eyes are open and gaze.
Do I have an external way to do that?
Yeah.
Like about 1,000 of them. The one that I like the most right now is actually like sound design, or playing with like sampling and looping of sounds.
Oh yeah,
that's my favorite one. Just because you get a bunch of weird sounds, and it's like next thing you know, you've been like sitting there like making different tracks with different elements for like an hour and a half, and you're just like, that was so cool. Like that hour and a half just fucking disappeared. So I really like that one. I do a whole lot of like rave dancing, like old school rave dancing. I do a lot of like meditation with that. That's completely gone. Freestyle rapping, one of the best ones, like rhyming, intricate rhyming on the fly to a beat. Very good. I also I write poet. Well, I guess you would call it poetry, but it's really actually more like Elizabethan verse, because I actually do it and I write in dactylic hexameter while I do it. So I write it specifically in verse.
Very well done.
And generally with like alchemical tone to it. That's really good. These are all things that it's just all about like overload my motherfucking logical mind so hard that I have to do all of just one thing, and that gives me like the focus point to get to one thing, and I'm super good at just kicking one thing out. So when I want to go to like ultimate focus from that, I just like zoop into the one thing and then kick the one thing out, because kicking one thing out is super easy to me. Yeah.
Okay. She said Heather says going into what Aaron said, she's sending to by Aaron said about the slug incorporating the energy into the body as a trauma. Dissonance is always a temporary state that we have to commit to and own ourselves with our conscious and unconscious mind.
In a certain way, I agree with that. If you want, like, dissonance is functionally destructive interference, and if you want to bring all of the energy into coherence, then it's really your job to figure out how to be able to create space for the destructive interference or dissonance to basically get rid of itself. So you just have to be able to give it time. I have a whole process for this. It's based on Enochian watchtowers, but is actually based off the idea of patience, perseverance, tolerance, and acceptance, and how through the leveraging of those 4 things, we can functionally open up a square space that provides the space for really any type of dissonance or decoherence to have the time to come into conjugate. And if you really want to use it very specifically, you can actually measure the size of the dissonance, only extend far enough and make sure that you apply a proper, actually like squeezing pressure to it, where you don't actually break it, but you are encouraging it to go. But it's like, I wouldn't really recommend it because it really borders on forceful, and that usually doesn't work very well for you when you mess up.
Okay. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Fighting. If you can't identify with it, you can stay outside of it. Is that actually a question, or is that a statement?
Yeah. If it is a question, here's my thought on it. So if you don't identify with the trauma, I think maybe if we're going back on the story that somebody's mic on. Oh, her headphones were near the mic. That's funny. No, you're good. You're good.
Oh, sorry.
But it won't stay in distance if it's it will naturally adjust. Okay, so here's my internal process on that dynamic. This one real quick. If you don't identify, you can stay outside of it. So, I think what I described too when I was talking to Zach, when I told Zach about it the next day and stuff, it's not judging him, but if you're gonna put into one like spiritual term or something, being the objective observer, but responding. So even while I'm in this consciously aware, as I'm seizing, how did I choose to respond? I mean, if my consciousness, I think knowing ahead of time, I've had similar experiences. So I knew kind of when I go into that state, my body's not just freaking out and causing this reptilian reaction that like my thoughts are chaotic and whatever. My thoughts are usually pretty coherent, like almost actually probably very coherent. But I understand my nervous system is doing what it's doing because I have an understanding of that. It's calming to my inner self. I don't know. So I can choose to be present in those moments and choose, like I need to focus on my breath. First thing I knew I was supposed to experience this. I chose this. I wanted this. Like really, I was fully present. It was almost a joke. Really, on a higher level, it was like a joke, right? It was fine. So I was like, all right, I get it, guys, but this sucks, right? It sucks. All right. Yeah. But then just submitting to the dynamic, what can I do? And I mean, so I focused on my breath, all right? That like I was talking about just like the show before, so it totally makes sense. That it was all dynamic to it too. Like a massive amount, everything I don't know how to describe it. It's not like effort, like it's different. It's like that finding that stillness where everything else settles away, and then all there is breath, and every microsecond through, and that turning point, and back. It's like, man. It slowly took like 30 seconds ish, I think, in real time, whatever that is, to a minute maybe, but it slowly stopped the tremors. And I tested it. Fuck, Zach, you'll get this shit. Yeah, like I tested it. I'm like, all right, I need my little ego fucking. Is it just coincidence? This energy just leave my body, or is it because I'm focusing on my breath, right? And so so I stopped doing the breathing exercise. Tremors started coming back, started getting worse, whatever. They can go deeper level. Did that start happening because I believed it would happen subconsciously? I don't know, whatever. Anyway, you know the games we play. Come on. Even in this dire situation, man, I got to test this shit. I haven't been here before. I don't know when I'll be back again. Let me get as much data as I can. Let me try shit. And so I knew even coming out of that state, I knew how to calm myself. I grabbed my salt block, like I was talking about, put that on my chest, man. And I chose like consciously, okay, that was a lot. That was really intense. My ego handled that pretty well. I'm not taking that as a trauma, like consciously. I'm not like feeling in my body. You don't need to take that as a trauma. We don't know what to do with it yet, but we don't need to settle it in as a trauma and just kind of like make an agreement with that energetic field or whatever, creating some kind of, I don't know, negentropic field, right? I don't know. Something that's like a balance between or whatever until there's a choice to deal with it. Because it is energy that was at me and I want to study it in a sense. Like I don't want to just get rid of it or heal it right away or say a prayer or like, I want this energy. It came to me. I don't want an ounce of it to go away. I need to study this shit. Right? I need to understand it. But I also don't want to traumatize my little avatar. Because that's not fair, right? Especially if you can consciously engage it in this way, which is interesting. And so
I really do agree with what Heather's saying, though, because in the sense, like it's like using the jazz metaphor, like you don't have to listen to the sound in the song that you don't like, but you still actually get all the frequencies of the music. Totally. You know what I mean? Yeah, so you just like, it's kind of turning your mind off to being like, I like this whole track except for the trumpet. It's pretty fucking annoying. So I just like, I kind of don't identify with the trumpet. I identify with the rest of the track and I move to the rhythm. And the trumpet really feeds into me whatever its knowledge is regardless, even if I don't identify with that thing. And then I don't really have to go through the process of being like, ew, the trumpet.
Yeah. Yes. In about 7 or 8 different ways, but yes.
Yeah, so trumpets are cool. Never go use the trumpet. Learn to love the trumpet.
Replace it for a didgeridoo.
I agree 100%. Sorry, everything you said about, okay, listen, Zach, you differentiate everything you said about raves and all that shit. Like, I was sold at the heart soul level. Like, we're making that shit happen. And, like, I need to experience that shit. I get it. Like, I semi-experienced it from you because you embodied that shit. And, like, Reed told it very, very, very well. Okay?
Oh, man, so good.
Yeah, I know, man. So, like, I believe
I can't wait till we throw, like, a real rave somewhere at my super mega place on the equator. Oh, yeah, it's gonna be so good, guys.
Yeah, I can't wait.
I'm coming.
Yeah, all right.
Everyone can come. It's open invite. Ticket price is $0. Let's go. Let's go. Oh my gosh.
2020. Clear 2020. We'll start a Kickstarter, man.
Yeah. Who knows, dude? Maybe if I put 2020 on it, it actually would happen by the end of the year. If I go by my plan, it ain't happening by the end of the year.
Right. Yeah. So okay, but so I agree with you on that. The trumpet thing, nope. I've experienced a lot of trumpets in my life, man. They're fine. They're fine in the right context. But shofars and didgeridoos, fuck yeah, I'll take that shit all day, man. I resonate with that. So if I can get the similar compression waves in a more ancient form or something that's resonant with my DNA now, you know, maybe like because sage smoke is like sage specifically is very pungent to me. It's very intense. I mean, I love lots of types of resins, lots of types of incenses and stuff, but like. You know, some I don't. They just don't resonate. But sage, and I always find that interesting because it's such a traditional one, and I always feel like that dissonance isn't just like, oh, my personality or like whatever. I feel like there's some kind of energy thing inside of me or DNA potential that I still search out or think about. Of well, that's interesting. I totally had some timeline thing integrate, and I lost my train of thought. That was really interesting. That was different than a deja vu.
I think we have choices of how to do this. Like we can choose to kind of conjugate the thing and be kind of inside of the conjugate. And then where we're really choosing to basically be the thing that provides the space for coherence, and that's like a very logical. It's like the masculine way of doing it. I'm just gonna open up the space. Don't worry about me. I'll just hold the door open for the ladies. You know what I mean? Like it's this kind of thing. But then there's the other way of it where it's like I'm just gonna wait until the door is open and then I'm gonna go in. You know what I mean? And it's not really about that, and like it's just a more feminine way of doing it. And I think it's probably in a certain way better. Like the masculine way is almost always more work. For some reason that satiates the mind, thinking that like since I'm putting in more work and I have a procedural process, that I'm going to have a higher level of consistency. And I mean, maybe that is true on a certain level, but maybe it is not true on a lot of levels as well. Efficiency, you really got to like start looking at how many hours do I have to put in to do X or Y, right?
Yeah. Well, then where do you find the balance in that, or do you adhere to the kind of the belief that's out there, you just do every day what comes to you, literally what intuits you or what's in front of you to do. There's not like, and I don't know if that means I don't know how extreme that it goes. If that's a principle that you still actually have a calendar and shit, or you really just like whatever comes to your mind. If you remember your meeting, you remember your meeting. I don't know, but like I mean, I believe at a core principle level. I just don't know if there's enough programs I've written to actually walk that out or something. I don't know.
Sure. I mean, I think I try to purposefully so. I guess I think of it as pretty much like my emotions or intuitive urges, what I want, right? These are basically just like navigational beacons. And I find like the emotion of where I am and the emotion of where I want to be. And then I logic the space in between them. And I don't try to think too far beyond basically those 2 points, like where I am, where I'm trying to get. And I'm really more focused on like what the next step is. I understand that like functionally I'm walking across difficult terrain. So I'm very mindful of every step, but I definitely logically plan the steps, but I don't let my logic determine what direction I'm going to go. Yeah. It's the way that I try to do it.
Yeah.
Functionally.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I try to have them dance together. I definitely spend enough time inside of logic that I really do appreciate it for a lot of things, but I spend enough time inside I guess what you would call illogic. It's the other side of the brain, right? Whatever you want to call it. That side of the brain, to recognize that it has a ton of benefits, that it really works better than logic. And I'm really a firm believer that like they work best together, you know? So
Agreed.
I try to use them together, but like, I mean, you know, too much time in logic really still.
Crease that corpus callosum, bro.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm lifting weights every day, trying to get that corpus callosum, you know, a little bit bigger.
Yeah,
but
hey, we're having the novel experiences every night. Literally, they're all organic conversations.
Yeah,
it's very interesting. You know, that's true. It's doing the same thing.
I'm very grateful that I actually have a life where pretty much every experience, I don't have any of these like stupid monotonous experiences where it's like, oh, this is just such a waste of time. Really, there's something valuable that I'm really deriving from every moment that I'm spending in my life at this point in time. And like, if I'm grateful for anything in my life, it's that. Like, I've positioned myself well in that regard.
Well, see, like I've learned to find those places in every situation I'm at, even in the situation of leaving the business at some point. As things unfold, but it could be quicker than I yet have a solid timeline written out for that would bring a beneficial, beautiful fractal pattern to all of it, right? For all of us. Mm-hmm. I'm going. Assuming I can go it in a row, I guess. Wow, that's twice, man. I gotta turn my chair. That's weird. Totally the same thing happened. It's like a weird deja vu thing.
Aaron's out of alignment. He needs to turn his chair
towards Alpha Centauri and towards. Okay, I want to acknowledge.
This is like the trans-dimensional version of like the sun was in my eye or something. It's like, oh, sorry guys, my face conjugate's out of alignment. I needed to move my chair. That's why I'm forgetting things. You know, and we're supposed to believe it because it's super sciencey.
Wow.
Oh, there's too much sun. My ankle hurts. I twisted it yesterday.
Wow. Well done. Oh, hold on. Okay. Sorry, Andrew. Just saw your message. Okay, before you head off, nod off. Okay. I want to acknowledge this whole time the beautiful archetypes or energy dynamics that I saw happening and were present for Zach and I to be on the outsides of you guys. And to just, us being out here and just the electric, just engaging and shit. And you guys not saying a whole lot. Like at certain times, man, I get that. But like the ways to engage and energetically be present for us, if it was very birthing in certain ways or very, I don't know. Yeah, it was just I just want to acknowledge and honor that, just your presence, really.
Thank you. It's all about being a good tour guide.
So I was curious, are you heading out now, or could you give us, I mean, not to put, I was just intrigued on your read on the map.
Oh yeah, so me and Zach will let you go as long as you can go on this, Ange, and then you can go to bed.
Right, you have like what time is there? Is it there? Oh,
it's about 5.
No time. It's no time.
Yeah, no, exactly.
6.
Dawn time.
It's morning. She just got up.
No, I didn't. I didn't just
Sun's
get up.
Coming up in the window.
Haven't quite been to sleep yet. Now I'm being shown a different thing. Okay, and it's interesting. There's an origin here from this particular cluster that is to do with the Pharisees in Egypt. That was quite strong.
Well, the cross is very much an ankh.
I mean, the thing is with this symbol, it has been so hijacked. This particular imprint in that cluster has been hijacked for many religious, obviously, but also earth symbols. It was used originally to fuel certain things, certain equations to be added into. And there were underpinnings in the early forms of alchemy. But it's where the most beautiful forms of life are, of lifelike intelligence. They also sustain life near and far, in 63,000 different realms to be precise. And it's the home of conjugated forms. And also the overlaps that lay over each other in a chain-like function. The connectivity of all mankind there at that particular point is brotherhood in that unity. And it gave the universe a solid founding to what it is today. It's a particular imprint point. About 600 variations of this life sentience. 302 are present on Earth today. Yeah, but there's also seed races here for other areas in other parts of the universe. It's really quite beautiful, actually. It really is. And it's always been a good place. Is that okay?
No, no, that was spectacular. Thank you so much. I appreciate it enormously. That's a beautiful read. Thank you. That's
always okay. Yes, very much.
Anything from the first line, I was just mind blown already. I was like, wow, she got it. She got it. Thank you so much. I appreciate it enormously. That's a beautiful read.
Thank you, Lilac. That's an honor. Right, I'm going to head off to Dream World.
Right. Love you, Anne.
We'll do two as well.
Yeah. Oh, you're gonna head out too?
Yeah, I'm 3 hours ahead. Not as much, but getting there.
Yeah. No
See you
worries.
in the dream world.
Thank you guys very, very much. Love you.
Thank you guys.
Come back soon.
Much love.
Bye.
Oh wow, the audio quality totally changed. There's no buzz in the background. It's funny. You got used to it because we were on. Wait, am I on? You're muted, Zach.
I'm not on. You're on though.
I was like, come on, that's down. What is happening? Dude, that's cool, man. I mean, because I've gotten little sleep kind of in the last 2 days, which is fine. I feel my body like trying to transition to the schedules type, like you were talking about. I've been very much, dude. I nap where I nap, I sleep where I sleep, man. And I get, like I've been able to structure my life now where I can usually sleep in and not have to get up to an alarm, right? Which is ideal, whenever that is. And I'm working on like training, doing the same 3 times, or different little ritual, repetitive, the techniques and whatever to and more consistently is the thing. What time I want to wake up before I go to sleep, or even take a little nap. But I usually just leave it to, because there's no like timeline on me certain things. Like when my body is, when it's done, man. Sometimes I think I'm gonna take a 5-minute nap, turns into like an hour and a half, like in my fucking van. Just is. You know, other times I think I'm gonna take 5 minutes, 2 minutes. Like I'm just refreshed, done. I hit hit Theta Delta bunt, done. I don't know.
I'm gone. I'm out.
Don't know what my brain does, and then it's like cool. Then I'm refreshed and good. It's interesting.
Good night, Lilac. Thank you again for coming. We really appreciate you being here.
What an interesting dynamic with the two girls and the way we were going back and forth, man. That was some volleying for sure. And they were just held so much space, like beautifully. And I think that's like, I think it's like just thinking about it dynamic. And I like to be able to point out or honor those in people, you know, just because I don't know if they see, I mean, they probably do. Like they're just, and they seem to be, the nice thing is, it's like they knew that and they loved us and they loved watching us have these dialogues and whatever. And like they loved just being here, not like, because they felt, oh, I'm a part of it. I mean, whatever. They loved us. Like they were honoring our soul, like flowering our soul to have an exchange at levels that we could not have were they not present, not just physically, but energetically in that way, their internal disposition.
Sure.
You know, it's some cool
holding
shit.
space is a very interesting thing. It's amazing how much you can do without doing. You know?
No shit. Yeah. Really.
The whole Zen and the art of non-doing is a very interesting concept. Well, like I was talking about Wing Chun last night, the same idea with like Chi Sao and Void Hands. It's just kind of weird, that whole concept. This non-doing or neutralizing. Non-doing or neutralizing, both of these concepts are very interesting. Angela talking about how cross is a hijack symbol, and that's part of the reason why cross is a hijack symbol, really. Like, she speaks about the conjugating and such, and it really very much so is a thing about conjugating, you know? But through that, like, you can make anything. I mean, you can make bad good, good bad, you know, you can enhance bad, you can enhance good, you can neutralize all of them. I mean, it's very powerful, the whole concept of this crossing, you know?
Very much so.
Like, you know.
Also, I think we did on that first show or something, the photon and that whole dynamic too. Light and the all-present observer and finding with your consciousness to tune in, whatever internal symbol sets you use to get there.
Yeah.
To manipulate energy, to manipulate, well, everything, really. Interact with and tangle with, to be, because you are.
I've really found through my own like personal exploration, having outside or really like actual evidence, some kind of measurement or something. But the more that like as I've used the concept of density, the more my density has increased, very much so, the more energy I have inside of myself. Like I feel better. I mean, actually, if you ask most people, like I've actually basically stayed the same age or gotten younger since I've started doing this. And like, I mean, I literally feel younger. Like honestly, like I'm 36 years old. I feel like I couldn't tell you the difference between when I was 21.
Yeah.
I feel exactly the same.
How old do you think I feel?
Sure, probably the same. I think if you tap into a certain kind of thing, and it would take a long time to go into the particulars of what I think that is. It's functionally the holy grail, but that's like, what does that really mean, right? Like, if you tap into that, though, you kind of just basically sit in prime state the way that you feel. Like my deviations outside of prime state, I know why they are, and they're not just because like, oh well, I'm getting old. Like, nope, that's not how it's working. At least not yet. I don't know. Maybe when I'm 56 or something.
I got rid of those programs big time, long time ago. Yeah.
I doubt it even then, though. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, there's guys, you know, that used to be out there. They died now, like Fred Becky. That, like, you know, he's almost 100 years old, and he'll still probably climb something harder than most people would, and he'll hit on your girlfriend while he does it. You know what I mean? But he's like a 98-year-old guy. You know what I mean? But he said, you know, he packs his own pack all the way up to the cliff, and he climbs 5'10", 5'11", and such a thing. He's like 90-something years old.
How did he die?
He just died naturally. He just didn't wake up one day or something, I believe. Like, it wasn't anything spectacular, though. It was just like, oh, you know, Fred's dead now. You know what I mean? But Fred was like, I mean, I'm sure he didn't feel the same way he felt when he was 20 at that age. It didn't seem like that. The point is, though, is that, like, he just, in a void of excuses, he was capable of doing something that was well beyond the standard belief, right? Like, it was, so, I don't know. We got to believe. It's important that you believe.
Gotta be the lie of believe. I heard that once, and I was like, oh, it's pretty good.
And I don't think we really need to believe if we actually get into the etymology of that word. Like, leave, like, I don't know. Leaves are separated pieces of paper. Leaves die and fall off of the tree. So they actually do fall into separation again. The idea of leaving means to go from here to somewhere else, right? All of these are actually separation concepts. So in a certain way, when we say we be leave, we're kind of saying we be separation. And so if you're going towards being separation, maybe that's good for you. But if you're not trying to be separation, maybe it's not.
When you break it down phonetically a different way, because they all apply. I mean, when you get into the actual Phoenician phonetics shit, like holy shit. So be, lie, of, because B and F can be very similar in the different languages and whatever. Be the lie of, but to lie down of something, I believe. I lie down to the belief of, I submit to the belief of Jesus, and he's gonna save me on a cloud, and like all that shit. You know?
Yeah,
Anything else.
I don't think that's not good either. You
That's not
don't
good either.
You don't want that. You don't want that. You know, I can't find anything for it. Like the anagram. The best way to do it is with belief and the anagram of making it be life. Like if you're trying to put the positive spin on it, that's the way to do it.
Wonderful.
Be life.
Yeah.
Right. But it's if you when. So I have a belief. That is what I believe. These are two totally different situations. And when someone says like that is my belief, they're maybe trying to come into conjugation. They're saying like, that is my belief. What is your belief? Right. But when we say really like, this is what I believe, generally we're trying to take a hardened stance where we are actually engaging some type of separation or competition. I like a saying that I use, that there can be no compassion in the face of comparison. And comparison really is a format of competition. And so like if there's competition happening inside of the place, it's not really going to work to actually come and pass ions or actually be in a place of unity or really actually truly relating. So if we're going in these separatist mindsets, you know, like that we are trying to be leaving, you know what I mean? It's the same thing of like justifying, right? Like justify means to like move yourself to the side or substantiate something, right? And so nevertheless, like when we talk about paper justification, right? Like you can either have it left, center, or right justified. But when we're trying to justify something, when we're engaging with someone else, justification, when we say it like that, that's basing it off of them basically being the center or whatever is the average, what we're already engaging with or what has come at us, right? Like, Aaron, you made me feel bad. Well, I did that because, right? And you start to justify why you did that. What you're doing is you're trying to move the center by giving a new center by adding more information, right? So you're doing something separatist. You're immediately jumping out of it and trying to pull them over to you rather than being inside of it and basically being like, okay, I hear that you made me, that what I did caused you to feel bad. That is not what I was trying to accomplish. Can we work together to figure out how I could not do that in the future? Because I'm not trying to do that. That's how you approach that with, it's like, it doesn't matter whether I wanted to make you feel bad. I didn't want you to feel bad, right? It's not like, oh, well, but, you know, because, I mean, I made you feel bad because, like, I was, you know, I mean, you didn't do the dishes and, like, that's the thing we talked about. But so what? It doesn't fucking matter. Like, if I didn't want you to feel bad, I don't want you to feel bad. And if you felt bad, then it's something that we should handle together. You know what I mean? And that's the way to really do it together, but not like this justification thing. And justification is when you be leaving, you know what I mean, in a certain way. Like you're already going off some other way. And I just don't think it's functional for unity. This idea the whole idea of having a belief stops you from having the opposite of it as a belief. But what if the opposite is true? What if it is both a 9 and a 6, and it literally just depends on what side you're standing on?
Yeah, no doubt.
Right?
So is it spinning counterclockwise or clockwise? If it's moving towards you or away from you, energy.
Sure.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So, I mean,
twist the coils anyway.
So beliefs are scary in a certain way, and you don't actually need beliefs in order to go through life. I've said this before, and you're like, well, Jordan Peterson, you need beliefs in, you know, and like there's a certain level, and like there's a certain level of things that we do choose to believe and we choose to operate that way. You don't actually need them, though. You could go in it just being like a void. You're just not gonna fucking do that. There's no way you're realistically going to do that. No one does that. Like, you have very obvious information that you can fill it in with. You open up the door, there's fucking water coming from the sky. You're like, ah, shit, it's raining outside. I believe I should get a coat, right? So, like, you're going to have beliefs, but you don't actually need them. You could also just go outside without no coat and die of fucking hypothermia, you know? It doesn't seem like a very good idea, so you opt for the beliefs, you know? Need them? Nah, you don't need to stay human. You want to. You want to, but you don't need to. The earth does not need you to stay alive. The environment, the universe, none of it. You don't need that.
It's true. She likes some more than others, though.
You could say that. I don't know. Maybe. Maybe it does. Maybe it doesn't give a fuck about us anyways, and it's just like, stop fucking my shit up, guys.
Yeah, you haven't connected.
Maybe it's like a bad rash. You know what I mean?
Connected with her, like through Aya or her directly, like the consciousness, like really, like
I live in the void, my friend. Nothing exists here. You know, that's really where I honestly live. Every single thing that I interact with is in some way, shape, or form a projection of my own consciousness. I don't care what it calls itself. I really don't. So, Mother Earth, I've done plenty of, like, this is basically Mother. I was raised around the entire Greenpeace movement and all this. Like, I've heard it all. Also, I also understand how basically, like, we're a universe, and the Earth is one part of it, and I'm another part of it, and other parts are other part of it, and really all of this is being rationalized inside of my own mind. And functionally, I'm the place where existence transpires, is inside of my own collapse of perception. So, Mother Earth, if Mother Earth was never what we called her, then Mother Earth would suddenly not exist. You know what I mean?
I didn't know. I disagree. I'm saying her as a consciousness.
Suddenly she would. She would be called something else. She would have a different identity.
Right, she'd be called something else because she's an energy or consciousness, a frequency of being that exists. That she's real as you and I are, but she's in a different skin suit. She's in a planet.
We are not real. Technology. That's where we differ. You think you're real. We found it. You think you're real. I know you're not. I know I'm not real either. Well, then the Mother Earth is also not real.
I mean, if you want to get hyper objective about it, of course. But how fun is that? You win. You got to the far end of the. We're talking about like
exactly
spectrum here and tell a story. It's all the same story, but thank you for go. It doesn't matter.
Sure, you can connect with it. You can connect with anything that you want. But at the end of the day, you can do that because they're all projections of yourself. That's why you can connect with them.
Great. Fair enough. But they're still their own personalities. I wouldn't just objectify you. Well, you're not real.
They're their own personalities. And I don't know. I kind of feel like you're actually bypassing your schizophrenia, man.
Are you serious? Really?
Yeah, functionally. Yeah. Because they are actually, there's in some way, shape, or form projections of yourself. In some way, shape, or form, on some level. They're either, if we go from the very shallow level, they're basically psychosis delusions that you're engaging with, whether they be Mother Earth, Jesus, aliens, anything down this list. Technically, all of that is a psychosis delusion based off of a belief system that is not substantiatable by logic. So it's not a rational belief system to engage with. It's just something a lot of people do. So these are this. And then if we go on the other side of it, we end up still engaging the same thing. It's only at this nice little Goldilocks zone in the middle here where we separate everything and we pretend like it's not just a projection of ourselves.
Right.
And then so, I mean, yeah, we can have fun inside of there, but we can't act like technically things are real. Otherwise, we might render ourselves delusional. We can be illusional, but we shouldn't be delusional, I don't think. No, you're not real, Munchies, with Mello. You're not real, actually. You're as real as you will ever experience. But that does not mean you're real.
Do it. Get them.
I've always had very fluid beliefs or perspectives, been ridiculed for it. I'm no sheep. I'm a motherfucking border collie here to help guide the flock. Hopefully. Yeah. I mean, as long as one of the sheep get there, technically you guided the flock. That sheep might be you. You know?
4 kids. If only one gets there, the other 3 fall off cliff. I don't know if that's success.
I mean, how many are there in one? Maybe that's one family. Maybe that's one Earth. You know what I mean? So when I say that, I mean A shepherd has been successful at leading his flock as long as when he gets across the finish line, he agrees his flock is there too. Then he has been successful. It's perspective based. Your success is again a thing that you make up in your time.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I know we all feel that way, Mello. We all are 100% positive that we are real inside of our own reality. However, what we believe of ourselves, no one agrees with. Absolutely no one agrees with it. No one thinks you, whether you're on the side where you're like pretentious and you think you're way better than you are, no one agrees that you're that good. Or if you think that you're a complete loser piece of shit, no one outside of you actually agrees with that assessment of yourself either. You live inside of your own little dimension where you believe that you are the thing that you believe you are, and it's rationalized everything else around it, but it's not actually accurate. No one else agrees with you. You have no reference point outside of your own reality, and you can't measure things from the center. It's impossible. We'll never be able to prove it. That's the problem with this argument right here, is that the thing that I'm saying right there, there's no way actually to prove it. We have to be able to actually tangibly get outside of this experience while remaining inside of this experience to disprove that.
So what do you think about the unentangled observer idea?
The unentangled observer? I think an unentangled observer idea is actually basically, I don't think this is actually possible. I don't. Because unentangled observer, if I'm looking at something, there is a level of entanglement. I would not be able to see it if it wasn't there. So if I'm observing, I'm entangled.
Yeah, and that's at a base level of physics. I mean, come on, let's go higher dimensional physics here with consciousness. Like that's like you just said, in the same way that you can't measure that dynamic from those same base level of physics, yet you're presenting the next level, which I probably agree with you. It makes sense. Everything laid out. So taking another.
I mean, you say base level of physics, but plasma physics is both the bottom and the top, my friend. It's both. It's the top and the bottom. It's the God of motherfucking physics. It's not the bottom of physics or anything. It's God of physics. It's both sides at the same time. It's the beginning and the motherfucking end, the alpha and the omega. It creates everything and it destroys all of it too. What's that?
The point in the heart. Is that the same thing electrically? You think? The point in the heart.
Functionally, yeah, functionally.
Point in the heart.
Yeah, it's all just a big plasma collapse, continuing to collapse into dimensions on dimensions on dimensions, functionally. Yeah, and I mean, as a byproduct of making your own flock, it will likely be important to you that you make sure that the other 4 versions of yourself do not get eaten by wolves. And that will probably determine things that you do with your life and what you can and cannot do and all kinds of things like this. It's a contractual agreement to get 4 things somewhere else along with you. You know what I mean? So, and it's like, for some people, it's the greatest choice that they could ever make in their life. You know? I know some people that like the whole reason why they are like the person that they are is because they had children. It was exactly what they wanted. They'd always thought about it. Like, you know, it's good. Everybody should think about something, the things every way that they possibly can, including the way that it's like, well, you know, what would I do if none of this was actually real and it was actually just what do I want to do with it? You know? Can you connect with other consciousness? Yeah, any of them, man. Like I connect with figurines I have on my desk. They don't even have any identification. Like anything, you can connect with anything you want. That's the whole beauty of being a human. Like you're not actually really like a human. You're something so much cooler than that. You're this weird machine that can take on anything and everything. It can be really any perspective. And like, you know, why would you want to be quote unquote real when you could be unreal? Like, I would much rather be unreal level now. But some people can't break out of that and be unreal.
Are you familiar with the bloop theory or the bloop hypothesis? The 28 trillion times per second, or whatever the thing is. This guy talks about it very, very well. I've heard him talk about at length a couple times over the years. But he's also the same guy. Is he the same guy who made the back in the day, one of the first like Google web bots or something, and he was able to track, and he made money on the stock market based on people just putting in questions and times and I don't know, some weird shit. I don't know, he made one of the first things. I forgot what it was called. Wish you know as well. I just remember the bloop theory. That's not ringing a bell, dog. Is that Wikipedia or something real quick? Because it'd be interesting to get your take on it.
Yeah, I'm looking to see what it is. This is something to do with data, though, not some kind of ocean sound, I'm presuming.
No. That's like 28 trillion times a second or something like that. So I tried correlating with that.
Maybe bloop theory will lead me to it.
Oh yeah, that's what I thought.
No.
What'd you type?
Hypothesis.
Oh.
But even there, still, like, I'm not.
Yeah, I mean you're right. Hypothesis is probably more accurate.
Still keeps talking about some bloop mystery that has to do with some kind of sound that was under the ocean. I'm not sure what it relates to. So 20.
The string. It's like the way the string vibrates, or he gets into the shit, man. I do not remember enough that it's why I'm like, fuck. I wish we could find something to do it justice, because I'm butchering it.
It's something that falls off of string theory. Then if it has something to do with a vibrating string,
like you'd be really interested in, I think. But I lost my original. What I was saying before that. Do you remember what I was saying?
Not before the bloop thing.
No, me either. We got lost on the bloop, bro.
Yeah, we got blooped right out of it. I honestly think that's what all of these things are for. Basically, standard model of quantum physics. The functions of quantum mechanics, very worthwhile to understand, very worthwhile to work with on some levels. Let's break things down into more constituent particles again. And so since we're going to go even farther than a quantum particle, we're going to break them down to just their vibration. And we're going to say that it can be mapped by being this 11-dimensional string that can be in all kinds of just a fucking infinite variation, pseudo-infinite variation of potential different angles across these 11 dimensions. I think it's very, very curious that string theory believed that there was 11 dimensions to its operation, and then later we came to also believe that the brain can operate in 11 dimensions, and I don't think that belief is a carryover of the fact that this is actually carrying a truth. I don't think that's carrying it, because I don't think the brain can only think in 11 dimensions. I think that's fucking stupid. Like, that's dumb. That's obviously fucking dumb. You can think a lot more than 11 dimensions simultaneously. No doubt about that. So the idea that same place, and I think really honestly, it's still basing itself out of relativity, because it's built on top of these other things, right? Like even the idea of string theory, which starts to get outside of relativity, is very much so based off of this idea of particles that operate as functions of an atom all the time. And atoms are right where we get like relativity out, and it's only an electron because it's in a shell relative to the proton, and the proton and the neutron are only actually the nucleus because they're relative to this, the electron shell. It's all relativity. All of this is relativity. And I don't think we actually went the right way at relativity. They were talking about, I do not believe that they were disproved by the Michelson-Morley experiment in any way, shape, or form. I believe the Aether actually LIGO, light, whatever observatory that measures these electromagnetic waves in the cosmic microwave. That's what it meant all the way back in like 1890 or whatever, when Michelson, they fucking sold it to you like some. That's pretty much my take on it. You know what I mean? So I think we took a wrong turn at relativity. I think Einstein had a very interesting idea that relative to certain things does indeed work. But I don't think it's a unified theory by any stretch of the imagination, and neither did he. Neither did he. That's why he did. We don't. General relativity has proven true within the scales with which we have made technologies for it, and we can't seem to figure out how to make technologies outside of it. Sounds like a limit of a theory to me. So it's ridiculous. This is definitely not right. I mean, you want to really dig into that, like go ahead and let Dan Winter destroy him too, because Dan Winter's got a well-crafted case. Not in the same category at all, dude. This is like a rainstorm versus a Cat 5 hurricane. It always was. So like it's not the same thing. It's the Shakespeare thing again, man. Like if you think Shakespeare was William Shakespeare Stratford upon Avon, you probably also think that fucking Albert Einstein's the smartest man in the world. But neither of those things are true.
It's very true. Okay, so in the excuse me, first time 12 episodes, I'll be the first one to say I'm fading, man. I gotta call it. At least for
Sleepy
me.
time, Aaron. We've done 2 hours and 47 minutes, and I've ranted and made everybody else go away because I'm ranting about free energy, and we don't really want Zach to talk about free energy. because Zach's not that happy about the state of energy in the world. Anyways, I love all of you. We'll do 2 hours and 48 minutes tonight, and we'll see you all later. I love you all. Bye bye. Bye 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 bye.